Hello out there. We are live.
Welcome to BALLBUSTERS. I'm your Master of Ceremonies, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this, the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with all the Quantum Eraser action.
At the other side.
If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal and Patreon link in the info box below the video. Now, we are joined by Betty Van Velsen, Paula, otherwise known as YouTuber Bible Literalist, Dr. John D, Adam Meakin, Arwin, 10th Man, Chocolate Sane, and Quantum Eraser himself. Good to have you one and all. Welcome to BALLBUSTERS.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
That intro was
already given the game away. We are going to be covering Pseudo Mick Westian 2 space, otherwise known as bullshit geometry to account for Earth having gas pressure rather than it vacating into the ever-expanding vacuum of the sky, denied by all of us on flat Earth. Outer space is fake, and the paper-thin justification for us having gas pressure has been addressed, albeit in a pathetic kind of way, by Mick West. So this is the topic of discussion of the day. Of course, we'll have a little bit of foreplay before we get into the main meat and veg of Mick Westian 2 space. So, how are you all doing? Lovely weather, all that kind of nonsense.
Clear and cold. Yep. Clear skies right here.
The new intro, extended version that we got on this first new BALLBUSTERS.
Yeah, it was epic, man. It was epic.
Impressive.
Big shout out to Adam Meakin. How you doing, Adam?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Looked all right, that, didn't it? Looked all right.
I know, mate.
Impressive
Shout
lineup.
out to Adam for the awesome intro. It is epic.
Cheers, bruv.
Server master here, Betty Van Velsen, who's running our Discord.
Especially my bit, I love that. Yeah.
Yours is my favourite bit, Betty. It has to be said.
Yeah, the package is chip, right? So important.
We got a super chat.
How's 10th Man doing? You all good?
Good. That's the first time I've seen myself on telly.
On the telly.
On telly.
Too funny.
And Dr. John D's audio issues all sorted now. Hopefully this is going to be a swift reply. How you doing, Dr. John D?
Very good. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Excellent. You're all fixed.
Just for the rest of the BALLBUSTERS panel, if we're going to address questions to John, that's Dr. John, and Quantum Eraser is the other John. So John is going to be Dr. John. Quantum Eraser is Quantum Eraser.
Just say QE and Dr. Just say QE and Dr. John. That's all right. It's that easy.
Or we could use regular John and loud John.
No, that's confusing. Hey, Chocolate, can you hear us? Wasn't expecting that to be a prolonged silence, but there we go. That is our BALLBUSTERS team for all new BALLBUSTERS. So a ram-packed panel. Throughout the show, we may invite the public to offer their opinion on various bits of the presentations that are going to be given to you this evening. So if you do want to join the panel, there is a link to Flat Earth Science versus Pseudo Science Discord server, which is being graciously hosted by Betty Van Velsen. So massive thanks to her. But if you do want to join, and as I say, periodically you may be asked for opinions, you'll be taken off mute. Obviously, if we don't hear a reply, you'll be put swiftly back on it, and then we'll move on to the next person. But you can join the Discord server by clicking that link in the info box below the video. Have we had enough foreplay? Should we move on to Mick Westian 2 space?
Negative. Not enough foreplay just yet. I'm not satisfied. We could prep it a little bit by saying this is a discussion that was held a couple weeks ago on 24/7 Flat Earth Discord. Shout out to Indio and Jose Meza over there. It was Mick West that showed up, and there was 60 people in the hangout. So I just want to say I did a lot of editing. However, as you can imagine, with 60 people, it was a little bit out of control, but I think I edited it down to something that we could use. And I'll tell you what, folks, I don't know how Mick West can ever show his face again after this. But you could be the judge after it's over. But let me tell you, it's going to be bad. And it'd be my pleasure to present it. And there was a couple people on the panel. There was a Ballbuster, Chocolate Saying, was on the panel. And also, Dr. John D's name was brought up by Mick West about 3 or 4 times. So it's kind of ironic that he would bring the Ballbusters or a couple Ballbusters in on this. And we are making today, 30 November, Mick West as an honorable member of the Ballbusters team, because he single-handedly is probably the best advocate for Flat Earth. Thank you very much. Pseudo McWestian 2 Space. We couldn't do without you, brother. Thank you.
Retracted.
Ah!
Any of the other Ballbusters got any Mick Westian tales to regale us with?
Not really.
Yeah. Like he said, I was there that day, and yeah, it was kind of crazy because yes, there were a lot of people in the room, and I think everybody kind of wanted a piece of him. So it did get kind of crazy at times, but I think at the end of the day, Mick West showed that he really, I would agree with John, he is an advocate for Flat Earth, because the nonsense that he came out with was just ridiculous, for lack of a better. And yeah, his assumed calculator and his gas simulator, I mean, all these things, these things are nonsense. So yeah, we're gonna give him a good pummeling today, I think.
I'd like to thank Mick West as well for the gift that keeps on giving. The recent admission of his calculator not really being valid over large bodies of water. Just keep letting them talk.
Amazing, isn't it, that he just added that later on, while previously that wasn't supposed to be a problem, and then suddenly the whole thing just changes entirely because of the bulge that is now being accounted for. It's so weird.
But remember, all of that comes.
We'll get back onto curve calculators. You can see we've got QE ready to roar now, so we've got his stuff ready to present. Is everyone happy if we crack on with it, rather than getting sidetracked with curve calculators? Because obviously that will definitely get discussed at the end. But
Good with me,
being,
although I kind of want a shout out for the super chat.
do you want to do that, Betty? Or I will if you don't.
Yeah. You got a sticker with a thumbs up from Eagle Plane and Anchor, and I think it's Wind Rider. He says, "Badass introduction. Congratulations." Those are the 2 super chats I saw.
It's the Knight Rider. Thank you. I know he said white. I just had to do that.
You're up on screen. Let's rock and roll. Everyone else, if you can pop yourselves on mute.
Well, during this discussion, there isn't a whole lot with the Earth curve calculator. I did bring up his fairy tale model of gas, his little GIF or whatever he's got, gas simulator. I'm sorry. It just was brought up briefly, but that isn't the gist of what had happened during the discussion. And we'll get into that right now. Are we ready to go? We ready to roll?
I think so. Let's do it.
Degrees at the other side.
No, it's the vertical temperature gradient. It's
unless you pop
again,
yourself on
it's
mute by accident, because now we can't hear you.
A difficult thing to explain here.
If you're crossing the vertical gradient, right?
No, that's the refraction. Look up a thing called gradient index.
This is lost 2. Are you lost 3 over?
I'm good. What's up? You can't hear it?
No, we can hear you now.
I'm going to rewind it. Are we ready to roll?
1,000 degrees at the other side.
No, it's the vertical temperature gradient. It's again, it's
Okay, at
like
YouTube they can hear you.
a
Vertical
difficult thing to
temperature
explain
gradient
here.
if you're crossing the vertical gradient, right?
No,
But-
that's the refraction. Look up a thing called gradient index optics.
Yeah,
There's a
I'm well
difference
aware of it.
between light going from one medium to another and light going through a medium where there's a gradient. It's actually a very different type of thing. Light, even like you know about Snell's law, and you know the amount it bends when it goes from air to water. Now you think if something was shining parallel to the surface, there would be no bending. And so you think that if something is shining like at right angles to the temperature gradient, intuitively you would think there'd be no bending, but there actually is, because a light actually bends towards the more dense medium. It doesn't matter about if it's actually going into a more dense medium; it just bends towards it because it's not actually a line as such. It's actually a wave front. Light is a wave.
Okay. Now, could you guys hear that in Hangout?
We couldn't hear it in Discord, but that's fine.
Okay. But everyone in the audience heard that. He said light is a wave. We're going to get to that here in a few seconds. But the first shot across the bow, this is a train wreck. Pseudo Westian 2 space. Light actually bends towards a more dense medium. Oh, really? Mr. Magoo Mick, from your alma mater wiki, Fermat's principle states that the path taken by a ray between two given points is the path that can be traversed in the least time. Light traveling through a more dense medium as compared to a less dense medium would take the most time, Mick. Therefore, a shot across the bow right out of the gate, Mick stands in direct contradiction with Fermat's principle and common experience. Any comments, questions?
I guess I have one. Is he talking about a consistent density? Because it's different with lenses. It always bends towards the thickest part of a change in density, but it's the change that's the key.
No, he says light actually bends toward. I don't know. I guess photons have feelers out and they're running through the atmosphere and they say, oh, more dense medium. Let's go through that. No. No. Fermat's principle, and I say again, states the path taken by a ray between two given points is the path that can be traversed in the least time. So, are you going to traverse molasses in the wintertime in the least time or just water? Yeah, the prosecution rests. Any other comments, questions?
Seems not. Should we move on?
Right?
No, it will.
This is layers, right? This is 4 layers. I'm at 1 meter, so I'm just going off his little data here. This little data set from John D. So say the laser's at 1 meter. He's shining exactly horizontally. Now, and we've assumed that from the target to from the source to the target, the laser is always at 1 meter elevation.
Yeah.
How is it crossing into the 1.5 meter?
It's not. That's the thing.
Meter?
That's the fascinating thing about it, is that it doesn't need to go.
I'm asking you how it's done. How does that happen? I know that there's beam divergence, right? So there's going to be spread. A portion of the wavefront is gonna spread out and go higher and lower. But the centroid of the beam is not going to. That's not going to happen.
Light,
the main
light is like a wave.
So
no,
it follows
it's not.
a Gaussian, right?
No, it's not. Light's not a wave. Wait, light's a
Okay.
particle.
Right, it's a particle that acts as a wave.
No, it
It's a wave
doesn't.
particle
Particles
geometry.
don't act like waves. Particles act like particles. You're a
Well, water is made up.
pseudoscientist.
John,
Water is made of particles.
Yeah,
and
but
water
light
acts in
isn't.
waves.
Light is made of particles. Light's not water. You
Water
false
is
equivalence
made of
fallacy,
particles.
knucklehead.
Water is made of molecules, which is
Yeah,
essentially
light
particles.
is
and
made
acts-
of particles. It's not water. Clown
And-
show.
It acts like a wave. Though.
Photons are particles.
act like waves.
They don't. Particles don't act
Stop
like
screaming.
waves. Particles
Why do you
act
get,
like particles.
interference
Stop
or things
over
like that
talking
then
me.
if they don't act like waves?
To prove that light is a wave.
QE, look, dude. Okay, we're talking about something else entirely, dude. And you come in here wanting to talk about waves and particles. Look, dude, you're not going to interrupt the conversation and take this in an entirely different direction. Mick West, continue talking about refraction.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Oh, he was. Listen, it is relevant, though.
It is relevant. Who was saying that?
Put it out something.
Mick made a claim. Mick made a claim. From ray optics to wave optics, right?
QE is refuting his claim that he made as part of his argument.
But light acts like a wave, which it does.
No, it doesn't. You can keep on saying it, but you're wrong. To refute light as particles, you have to refute the photoelectric effect, number 1. Number 2, Compton scattering, number 2. Number 3, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. You ready to do that right now?
I don't think any physicist would argue that light does not
you
act
can't
like
speak.
a wave.
Objection, Your Honor. You can't speak to any physicist.
Dude, if you QE, if you
Let him go. Let him go.
No,
Thank you.
So,
question and answer.
Say again.
Like
dude, QE, stop yelling. Okay.
Hey, shut. Who are you? Who's giving me instructions?
I didn't understand this at first.
Who's giving me instructions?
Well, I mean, for the sake of conversation, like, let's try to keep it civil.
Hey, Indio, are you in here? One second. Indio, are you in here?
I'm in here. I'm taking care of it. Just chill.
Okay.
All right. So, can I carry on?
No, you can't. Just wait.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because you sound really stupid.
Yeah, because just like when you stop Lemonbird when he says something wrong, QE is doing exactly the same thing. So don't get mad about that.
So, Pseudo Westian 2 space. Light is a wave. Water is made of particles, right? He tried that maneuver. Now listen, I don't need to provide citation for this. I really don't. But I'm going to. So, Leonard Susskind, professor of physics, Stanford. Particles are particles and waves are waves. How can a particle be a wave? Wave in an ocean, that's not a particle. The ocean is made out of particles, but waves in an ocean are not particles. Rocks are not waves. Rocks are rocks. So a rock is an example of a particle, and an ocean wave is an example of an ocean wave. And now somebody, Mick West, is telling you that a rock is like an ocean wave? What? Right? No, it's not. Photons, light are particles, people. Richard Feynman, the first thing Newton believed, light was corpuscular. Turned out that it had very strange properties from that point of view, and it was then explained that many of these strange properties was because, in fact, it was a wave, which was wrong. Turned out he was right. It was a particle. From Professor Shankar, Chair of Physics at Yale, everything is really particles. All things. Electrons, photons, protons, neutrons, they are all particles. So let there be no doubt about that. He sounds pretty confident with that last statement right there. Photons are particles. Live double-slit showing discrete chunks, quantum particles of energy and momenta hitting a photographic plate. You can check the info box below. That video is in there. It's game over right there. But I'll continue. However, I feel like the wave force, the wascally Willy Wankin Wheeler wave wonkas, is strong with you young Skywalkers. So put these on for size. Listen up. To refute photons as particles, you not only have to falsify the stamp on the forehead well dot demonstration and citations above, you must also falsify every single experiment with light over the past 250 years. But let's get specific. Specifically, here's what you're going to have to do. You have to debunk these. The photoelectric effect, 1921. Compton scattering, 1922. Then falsify Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which states that the more you know the position of a particle, the less you know the momentum of that particle, and vice versa. You get it? Best wishes, I'll get the popcorn. You'd have better chances putting mascara on a honey badger. Then, using the medium of the depth of the badger's incisors in your butt to resurrect Alexander the Great's horse, then refuting the case brought against you. In conclusion here with this section, therefore Mick stands in direct contradiction with the photoelectric effect, Compton scattering, Isaac Newton, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, Leonard Susskind, professor of physics at Stanford, Professor Shankar, chair of physics at Yale, and Richard Feynman. Outstanding work, Mick. Couldn't have done it without you, friend. Questions, comments?
It's a simple mathematical reification of wave function, a description of a probability distribution, if I could say it, into a wave, a physical wave like you get in the sea, which it isn't. It's a probability distribution, a mathematical description, wave function. But it seems that Mick West is mathematically illiterate, or at the very least guilty of mathematical reification. It's not a wave, it's a mathematical description of a probability distribution. Right, any comments from anybody? Maybe?
Nope.
I can only just reassert what you just said, Nathan, really. It is just to reaffirm that it is described mathematically as a wave where that particle will be.
I mean, we'll move on in a second, but I will give John's explanation to me because it's nice and simple. If you're firing individual chunks through the double slit and you're seeing your diffraction, your interference pattern, well, when you fire a single chunk, it could hit at one of, let's, for simplistic sake, make the points it can hit nice and binary or whatever. You've got numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And when you fire your chunk, it might hit more likely than any number 3 or number 4, but you fire it and it hits number 1. But that's not a wave. That's a single contact point from a single chunk. So when you fire your next chunk, it might hit position 7, it might hit position 4, it might, it's a probability of which one it's most likely to hit. But it doesn't mean it will hit that, it's just more likely to, i.e. the probability of it hitting position 1 over hitting position 5 is more or less likely. But each impact, each strike is a single impact of light. Well, that's not a wave. But when you get them all together, all these multiple impacts, you could describe what you are presented with, that probability distribution, mathematically as a wave function. Doesn't make it a wave. It's a particle. Mick West is stupid.
Yeah, you're gonna see over the next 10 or 20 minutes or so, he thinks that it's a physical wave, the wave function. That he says he can see it and it's physical, right? That's his whole problem. That's not only his problem. There's a big problem out there, not only with Mick West. You guys know who I'm talking about, right? If the shoe fits, wear it. I'm just going to keep hammering this on you. I don't have a problem. If you think light is a wave, no problem. You're going to have to refute Compton scattering, the photoelectric effect, and Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Those are the first things you're going to have to refute. Best wishes. It'll be easier sprouting broccoli from your armpits. Just to let you know, I'd kind of drop the Wascally, Willy Wank, and Ken Wheeler Walkers. I'd have to drop that, folks, but that's all right. Just continue. I don't have a problem with it.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Any other comments? Questions?
Yeah, I did. But I apparently was disconnected, so I didn't come through. But yeah, you got me on the panel, so you could have expected me to make mention about this at least. I totally agree with the wave function and light not being a wave, obviously. But as for the particle part, I have my questions about that still. I still don't think there is a divisible finite nature to it. But that's not this argument. Light is definitely not a wave. Let's just go with that.
All right, appreciate it.
Just to address it though, just so you've got something to go away and look at, just look at quanta. What is quanta?
It was established in a very specific matter, but I personally foresee problems with the way that was deduced. Mainly that it is bound by the finite capacities of actual matter, which are particles. So that is how you detect light. That's how you absorb it, and it will be bound by that. So.
Can I ask, is the confusion because you can still get the wave, you still get the interference pattern even while sending individual particles through?
Correct.
Is that where the confusion comes from? So people.
No, you wouldn't be able to derive a wave function from a single impact. So no.
I don't think
that how they.
I think he's asking the question, is the confusion coming from that? No, that's the answer that drives the stake in him. Because you get the interference pattern even firing one photon, doesn't have to be a photon, electron, atom, whatever, molecule, even firing one at a time, you still get an interference pattern.
Right. That was exactly my question.
Exactly.
Because I think maybe that's why people get confused, because you still get the interference pattern, even though you're sending just individual particles one at a time.
Yes.
Or something like
that. Right, but you can't perceive it if you just shoot one particle. Because,
I know that.
You see the interference pattern.
Yeah, of course.
That's a bit kills them, if you ask me. So firing a single particle will not give you the ability to derive a wave function.
Exactly.
You need multiples, and quantum erasers is saying if you fire one at a time, and in my description earlier, you'd see one hit number 1, one hit number 7, one hit number 3, then another one hit number 3, then one hit number 2, then one hit number 4, etc., etc., etc. One at a time in that description to build up what you could then derive your wave function from mathematically as a probability distribution. Where is it most likely to hit? That's what a wave function is. But if you fired just a single one, well, light has still moved from A to B. We won't get into the nitty-gritty of that, I hope, on this show. But anyway, that aside, it's still destination, and when it's reached its destination, light has occurred. Let's just phrase it like that. But you can't get a wave function from that. That's impossible. So therefore, in that instance, with a single quanta hitting, you can't get a wave function, immediately debunking any notion that it's a wave. That is light. That's what's occurring when it hits the photographic plate or sensor. That's light. But can you get your wave function? No. You can't derive it yet. You need more than one impact. But we've still had light occur, debunking entirely any notion that it's a bloody wave.
Oh, by the way, to expand on that, if I may, for a second, it's funny that you mention it. Like, a single photon, presumed photon, cannot show a wave function. Well, at the same time, if you see actual waves in water, for example, a single water molecule is not gonna show or respond as a wave when subjected to similar circumstances as a body of water. So it kind of works the same way.
Exactly. Yep. All right, can we move on? Any other comments?
Only some admin.
Okay, go ahead. Admin?
Go ahead.
Yep. I got some super chats from people. And one is from Rob Kin, and he says, QE gets under my skin, but I still love him. Rocky alive, praise Jesus, he says.
Go on mute!
And then we have Earth is seriously flat, and he says, thanks for destroying the demonic globe zombie animal mind. My God, this is dramatic to read. And then you have 5 angels, and I think she or he says, I know what light costs. It is $3.10 per kilowatts per hour. Double that for every daughter over the age of 12. Smiley.
It's a good one.
Nice.
Yeah, good. Go ahead. Anything else?
Yeah.
That was it.
Any more Ballbuster comments on this particular aspect of light not being a wave, or can we move on?
Yeah,
Oh,
I just.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Tentman.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to step outside for a minute. But yeah, I did want to comment. The wave pattern is caused by the particles. It's always a particle, right?
Yes, the collective pattern. Yeah.
Correct. But it never changes. It's always a particle.
Correct.
Okay. Makes sense.
Oh, in a way, you could almost say that individual light particles, like individual water molecules, somehow, like a body, will respond and be subjected to this wave, just like an ocean would. But it is not a wave, just like a water molecule is not the wave. It is a water molecule.
Yeah, the photons aren't the medium. In waves, the water's the medium. That's the biggest difference. You could just scrap the whole thing right there. Okay, we ready to move on?
We'll just, if I can get Betty to just read out our super chat and then we'll move on.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Which is appropriate because Dave Gafford says, I'm coming off mute to tell all about Rakia life, God creator, Lord Jesus, Lord and Savior, he says.
Amen, Dave. Go on, pass.
Thank you for the super chat, Dave Rakia Gafford. Right, should we move on? You're still on screen.
Yeah, I left it up there. Okay, we'll continue.
Let's do it.
What is a science communicator, Mr. West? Because you are a science communicator, and so is Neil deGrasse Tyson. What is that?
Someone who popularizes science and explains it to people, I guess. It's like trying to...
Stupid people, right?
You don't even know what science is. What's up?
Oh, no.
Wait a second. He's a science communicator.
You don't even know what lasers are.
Wait a second, folks. He's a science communicator? Do you even know what a scientific hypothesis is?
Asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you. I'm asking you, what is a scientific hypothesis? What is an let's keep it simple. What are the three constituent... Hold on a second. What are the three constituent parts of an experiment?
Well, off the top of my head, I don't know.
Well, here we go. There's 2 points in here I want to stress. So, question. What are the three constituent parts of an experiment? Pseudo Westian 2 space, off the top of my head, I don't know. What? You're a science communicator. This is the second point. Mr. Magoo Mick is a self-professed science communicator. I want to stress this. This is in his wiki page, and he says it a couple times in here. So remember, Mick West is a science communicator. Okay? And doesn't know what an experiment is. This is akin to being an economics communicator who doesn't know what money is. Therefore, Mick stands in direct contradiction with ground squirrel level reasoning and would fail 5th grade general science. Quick, claims, questions, comments, quick.
This has caught a lot of people out. You just ask them what science actually is, and they don't bloody know.
I love it. Science communicator. That means he should be literally communicating scientific experimental data constantly. I don't think he's doing that.
No, he isn't.
Because I was there to hear it. It was kind of surprising to me to hear him explain how he is running around teaching people, like the regular layman, about science. But yet, the first question you're asked about science and what are the three parts of an experiment, and you don't know off the top of your head, Mr. Science Communicator. That's pretty funny to me.
He did say that he didn't know.
Yeah.
He said that he didn't know.
Yes.
But how can you communicate something you don't know? Doesn't seem very effective.
He did say that, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did say that he didn't know.
Yeah, he said, off the top of my head, I don't know.
The only credit you can give him is, well, at least he was.
At least he was what?
Well, at least he was truthful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not calling him a liar. I'm calling him a moron.
Oh, yeah. But it's
I'm not calling him a liar just yet.
It does
Just
seem
the
kind of
audience.
incompetent to not know the thing that you're presenting yourself as an expert in on the top of your head.
Just for the audience's benefit, we've just had the doctor on the panel going 3 times. He said he didn't know. That was the reaction from the doctor on the panel. just to point that out.
Yeah.
So I just want to, just before we move on, and then any more before I add one more thing. No, so,
Did you catch that? What is it?
I was just going to say, just substitute science communicator for pseudo-science salesman.
Yep. Outstanding. Thank you. All right, we ready to go? Dr. John D, that's okay. He likes you. Mick likes you. So we ready to continue?
Let's do it.
Yes, please.
I thought I said something, but I got disconnected again.
Thanks. We're continuing.
We haven't started yet. Go ahead, Arwen. What did you have something else to add?
No, I lost a moment. It's terrible.
Worries. Right,
And you're a science.
I want to add real quick. I'm sorry, John. I want to add real quick because there is a point in this discussion where he kind of hints that he has to sort of dumb down his knowledge of science to communicate it with people. But yet, when asked in that particular subject, you don't know. And that to me struck me as insane, because how are you running around teaching people about science, but the most basic thing, an experiment, and you don't know the 3 parts of it? It's unbelievable to me.
You're giving a bit of the game away, because we will get to that bit. But you're obviously there, so you got to experience this firsthand. So obviously, you're going to speak from the moment that you experienced it. But yeah, we will get to that and all together.
I remembered my comment, by the way, if I may.
Go ahead, Aaron.
It's basically the same thing, but yeah, you can't emphasize it enough. Okay, so he doesn't know on the top of his head the core of the thing that he professes himself to be an expert at. That would, by all standards, be considered incompetent, no matter the field.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah.
I'm a butcher.
And maybe a sociopath or psychopathic tendencies. I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
You made
I wouldn't go that far, but
we're going to get that far. That's just hold that thought. All right, we ready to continue?
Let's do it.
It's like trying
stupid people,
You
right?
don't even know what
Layman
science
people.
is. What's up?
Oh, no,
wait a
just-
second.
just-
He's
just
a
regular.
science
You
communicator.
don't even know what lasers are. What the fuck
Wait a
is
second.
wrong?
Wait a second, folks. He's a science communicator. Do you even know what a scientific
Yes.
hypothesis is?
Asking me? What a
Yes, I'm
scientific
asking you.
hypothesis?
I'm asking you. What is a scientific hypothesis? What is an Let's keep it simple. What are the 3
hypothesis is,
constituent? Hold on a second. What are the 3 constituent parts of an experiment?
Well, off the top of my head, I don't know.
Don't worry, folks. I just wanted to play that one more time. Here we go.
Like,
And
you
you're a
just- you
science
have the-
communicator?
Yeah, but this isn't the type of science that people want to be communicated with. I mean, you have
Oh
the quantitative
my
variable,
God.
you have the variable, you have the
Oh, we go.
hypothesis.
I would-
Wrong.
I would
Yeah.
Find
argue
words right
that-
now.
hold on, I would argue that communicating scientific goal is different than communicating scientific experiment.
Wrong.
Science
Everything,
is
the
the
whole
method.
basis of the scientific method is based on experiment.
That's why, like, Dr. John's experiment was actually a pretty good one.
Dr. John didn't perform an experiment. He even told you that. So I wanted to stop here because he brought up a ball buster, Dr. John D. This is the first time he's brought him up. Going to bring him up a couple more times. So, Mick West buddy, Dr. John D. What do you think about that, sir?
Well, Mr. Mick West, yes. Yeah, it's weird because my video's been wrong. So he seems to want to be friends with me for some reason. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with him. and quoting, he seems to be quoting, these, like these tests we've done, the observations, and he seems to be like twisting.
So he's twisting those for you, huh?
Yes, but he's not actually talking about what we did. He's just making statements he wants to make about them.
Right. So he's just generalizing, dropping your name. He likes to drop Dr. John D, right?
Yeah, for some reason, because obviously Mick does have a green laser, but he's never been outside, and he's never flashed it about outside and recorded a video. But I do remember he likes to shine it through a fish tank, and he likes to pretend that that's real life.
Oh, that's right. Okay. All right. Gotcha.
It would strike me, John, and QE, that it's a similar thing to what goes off with Ranty's work. Instead of praising it or directly addressing anything that disproves their silly little model, they go, "Oh yeah, another ball earth proof." Ranty's great at producing those, and he's trying to ascribe your work as if it supports his idea without ever stating why it does. I think there's a little bit of fake ingratiation there.
Yeah, that's a perfect description, Adam. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
In this instance, so he's been asked what's the constituent parts of our hypothesis, and he attempts to answer after there's a bit of rumblings from a few white knights trying to defend him for some reason. But he says, well, you've got your independent variable and you've got your hypothesis. So he does make an attempt at answering it to a certain extent. He just says independent variable and hypothesis as his answer.
Yeah.
And it's quite clear that Mick West does not know the parts of a scientific, experiment because he has never done one.
Yeah, I caught Mick West. I guess is a good time to bring this up. Mick West is the first person, or I should say group, because I went onto his website, that I ran into in Flat Earth. It was like 3 days after I jumped out in here, even before I met the Rumpus and the YouTube crowd, because I was on a forum that mentioned Mick West, and they dropped the website as a link, and I said, okay, let me check this out. So I clicked on it, and it's Mick West's website. So I went on the website, and I seen a whole bunch of people. They had a whole load of different topics, and a big section in Flat Earth. So I went over to the Flat Earth section, and I seen a couple posts by Mick, and he was talking about science, right? He's talking about science, and I seen him screw up a couple posts, and I said, no problem. I was real cool about it. I said, well, this isn't science, and I'm having trouble understanding whether you understand what science is. So I asked him the same question. Hey, somebody's mic's open. Whether you understand what science is.
That's Riley.
So I asked him. Right, Anthony, go on mute, please.
In the middle of a hangout. Yes, it is you. Mute.
Just to keep this on track. So you've asked him the same question. What are the three constituent parts of a scientific hypothesis in the Mick West's website?
Yes, I asked him, well, what are the three constituent parts of an experiment, right? No, it wasn't 30 seconds that I was reading my post and then it disappeared. I said, what in the what? So I reloaded. I went back in. My post is gone. And then I get a notification from another bloke. I didn't know who he was. He said, go here. What they did was whisk my post away into this, I call it the archipelago gulag, right? Where all his cronies started asking me questions. I'm sitting there, what the heck is going on? I just asked a simple question. I wasn't rude, nothing, because he had all his rules up there. Don't be rude, no bad language, this and that. And at that time, I was good to go with it, and I wasn't rude at all. I just said, I made a point, asked a question, and I'm whisked away to the archipelago gulag. And these people started hammering on me, right? So I started, you know how I am. I pulled out the friggin' bazookas and started firing back, right? But Mick would never go in. He never did anything, right? I left that go. I said, man, I'm not going back there again. But a few days later, I did go back in and found Mick West, and I emailed him personally, and I said, what's up, man? I just asked you, and I put the substance of the post down in the email, and I said, I was whisked away. I said, you got a real censorship problem going on. I said, are you communist? And he said, well, you broke the rules. I said, I didn't break any rules. I said, I just asked you a simple question. I said, can you answer this question? He goes, you're not welcome back to this website. So that's the end of my story on that one. So me and Mick go way back there. I told you I was going to square things up with you, sir. And revenge is a dish best served cold. Gotcha!
Kiwi, did I hear him say that that's over the heads of most people when it came to the scientific method?
He may have said that.
Or something to that effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, to the
So why
regular
would
Joe. Yeah.
Sounds like a projection to me.
Why would you take the most evidence that you have to prove something and dismiss it?
Don't know.
Unless he doesn't have it.
Yeah, we know he doesn't have it. He doesn't have a lot of things. Okay, we ready to move?
Just to get the tone of the audience back set correctly. So we're at the point where we're all outraged because this man is a self-confessed science communicator, aka pseudo-science salesman, and he doesn't have the vaguest clue what actual science is. When put to task back in 2016, he didn't know what the constituent parts of an experiment are. Here we are in 2019, he's being asked the same thing. What are the constituent parts of an experiment? And his answer is, oh, I don't know. Independent variable, hypothesis, a kind of Tim Osmond answer. So that's where we're at.
Yeah.
I wonder at this point, if I may for a second, I wonder at this point if this is routed in some kind of fear that over such a long course of time, they just can't get themselves to focus, to learn this, to actually just get it right for once. It must be routed in fear. Otherwise, how could you avoid it so persistently over such a long period?
Well, it doesn't do much good to teach people.
Regardless of his motivations. So just so the audience, thanks for that, Arwin, is set back on track with where we are in the presentation. So Mick West claims to be a science communicator and is totally ignorant of science.
Oh,
Can we move on?
Oh, you think he does? He claims he's a science communicator. You heard him say that, right?
I did, yeah. He did definitely say he was a science communicator and then detail what that meant.
Okay, I just want to establish that, Your Honor. Let's hold off on that for now. Can we move on?
Everyone pop yourselves on mute. We'll move on.
Here we go. Now, let's get back. You're a science communicator, and you don't know what a frigging experiment is? You'd fail 5th grade general science.
So I don't think that's really relevant here.
He is also an expert on debunking on what contrails, chemtrails.
Would you stop
What was
changing
that?
the
You're an
subject,
expert,
please?
right?
But like you talk about,
Hey,
like
he
stuff
has
like dependent
dedicated
variables.
his life to debunking and making conspiracy theories look stupid. I just want to know what is the
Bong,
bigger
let's
picture here.
Bong, let's stay on topic. Let's not switch it up.
So we got two subjects on the table. One, you don't know what the hell light is. Number two, you don't know what an experiment is.
No, I do know what light
No,
is.
you don't. It's not a wave.
So-
It's a particle. Now, if you
Particle that
want
acts
to
like a
refute
wave.
that, listen, if you want to refute that,
He has to appeal to physics, to physicists. He's not
What
going
physics?
to answer
what physics?
Like,
He-
why?
Oh my
why are you
God.
saying?
because
Every
you are not
single-
qualified to answer the question, Mick West. Because you are paid, so you're not qualified to answer that question. Am I right?
I'm not paid. No one's paying me.
So you have to appeal to physicists, right? So you can't answer the question.
Why are you asking me questions?
All right, listen, let's deal with this right now. Richard Feynman, Nobel laureate physics. The first thing Newton believed, light was corpuscular. Turned out that it had very strange properties from that point of view, and it was then explained that many of these strange properties was because, in fact, it was a wave, which was wrong. Turned out he was right. It was a particle. Richard Feynman, lectures on quantum electrodynamics.
Wave. Yeah, I know. It acts like a wave.
It doesn't act like a wave. Particles aren't waves. They don't act like waves.
Why?
So we're back on light again. He just won't give up the ghost here. Pseudo Mick Westian 2 space. Light acts like a wave. Same. I just drug him around right by the short hairs, explaining this to him, but nope, he can't let it go. From Professor Shankar, Chair of Physics at Yale. So we have to play this game in two ways. It is particles, but its future is determined by a wave. But the wave is purely mathematical. You cannot put an instrument to measure the energy due to that wave. It's a construct we use to determine what will happen in this experiment. From the University of Tennessee, in one dimension, wave functions are often denoted by the symbol psi. They are functions of the coordinate x and the t time. But psi is not real, but a complex function. The Schrödinger equation does not have real, but complex functions. The wave functions of a particle at a particular time contains all the information that anybody at that time can have about the particle, but the wave function itself has no physical interpretation. From P.A. Schlipp, Einstein thought that a complete description of physical reality should refer directly to physical space and time, yeah, sure, as distinct from the wave function, which refers to an abstract mathematical space. Professor Henry Stapp, particle physicist, the first thing to appreciate is the ontological character of the wave function. It's not a description of the material universe at all. It's a description of something called potentialities. Potentialities are a realm of possibilities. They are in the mental realm. Therefore, Mick stands in direct contradiction with, again, Professor Shankar, Chair of Physics at Yale, University of Tennessee, Einstein, and Professor Henry Stapp. He's also a half-wit that doesn't understand the difference between the physical and the conceptual. Now, comments, questions, however, we already went over this topic before. Light, it's going to come up a couple more times. We can move here quickly or no?
Oh, yes. I actually have a very interesting thing to back up your point.
Okay.
And that is, again, the analogy with the water, like an ocean and a wave in that. Could we consider light going through slits to be not a wave, but subjected to a wave because of the slits?
No.
Because then every particle would be as subjected to a wave, showing the wave-like function, showing that pattern of distribution. So it would kind of be subjected to a wave.
No.
It would not be a wave. Why not?
Because it's not a wave.
No, but it isn't a wave. Light is not a wave, but light, the particles in that setup would be subjected to a wave because...
A wave of what?
That is that. We don't know. I don't know.
No.
But that's the outcome. I know it's not scientific. It's still conceptual.
Okay.
But I'm just... The analogy seems to make more sense to me now. So it seems like light is indeed a particle. It will go straight forward, but the slits somehow seem to subject it to a wave, just as if a rock were thrown into a pond.
Yeah, but what
creating
happens
the
when you
ripples.
have a detector at that slit? Then it goes away.
That's an look. I'm not saying it is a perfect analogy. I'm just saying it's a. There seems to be something subjecting it to this wave.
Okay. All right.
That's all.
Okay. Anyone else, or can we trudge on?
We've covered light being a wave function, a mathematical description. So, like you say, it may come up a couple more times if someone else has something else to add. But anybody else got anything to add?
Only some admin. Just another super chat.
Go ahead.
And it's a question. from Super Looming Hyena. He says, "Can you show me a real atom or photon?"
Oh my god. Yeah, we can show you an atom. We already done it on the show a couple times. And photons, they're really hard to catch because they're moving at the speed of light, which is really fast. All right? Are you breathing oxygen? Can you show me an oxygen molecule? That's what I thought. Can we move on? Thanks for the super chat, by the way. All right, we're going to move on. The next couple parts are also about light. Just put up with it. It's needed.
All right, you know what?
All right, hold on, guys. Hold on.
Yeah,
Hold on, everybody.
Order,
This is what's going on.
order.
Hold on, everybody. Look, we got a bunch of the people that hate QE in here interrupting. All those people are getting muted because literally I'm trying to hear this discussion between Mick, West, and QE, and everyone else. Kind of let them go at it for a while and stop interrupting. Please.
Yeah, I'm going to pull over up here. I'm going to go ahead and ban everyone who's been interrupting QE like that because I know y'all don't like him.
A true patriot right there. I need to know that gentleman's name. Let's continue.
Okay, congratulations.
From the chair of physics at Yale, Professor Shankar, everything is really particles, all things, electrons, photons, protons, neutrons. They are all particles. So let there be no doubt about that.
Of course,
Clown
yeah,
show.
everyone agrees with that.
So
I'm not
you said it's a
disagreeing with
wave.
that. I said it acts like a wave.
That is horseshit.
It's demonstrably true.
It's okay, demonstrate it.
Well, constructive interference, for example.
Oh, here we go.
A wave.
Here we
The
go.
wave function is not a wave. It's a mathematical construct. You're talking about the
Acts like
wave
a wave.
function, not a physical wave.
So Young's slits, the Young splits experiment.
Young
You're familiar with
splits.
that,
It's not a split.
Slits.
It's a slit.
I know slits. Young slit experiment
Yeah.
demonstrates the wave particle duality of the
There
nature
is no
of
wave
light.
particle duality.
Well, the experiment seems to disagree with you.
Oh, really? Professor Shankar, chair of physics at Yale. So we have to play this game in two waves. It is particles, but its future is determined by a wave. But the wave is purely mathematical. You cannot put an instrument to measure the energy due to that wave. It's a construct.
You can see the effect, though.
It's a construct. You're mixing up the concept of a wave with the wave function.
If you can
This
see it.
misplaced concretism. To reify something that isn't real into something
you're
that is real.
reifying the wave function. It's not a physical reality. It's probability amplitude of possible outcomes. That's all it
Exactly.
is. It has no physical reality.
Exactly.
But you can see it, though. You can see
You
the
can't
effect.
see it. All right. Pseudo Westian 2 space. Young splits. You can actually see it. That is the wave. You can't see wave functions, Mac. All you see is constructive and destructive interference. The effect or the result. Physical waves are not causing those patterns, and you're not, with absolute certitude, seeing a physical wave. Again, like I just said, from Professor Shankar, chair of physics at Yale. So we have to play this game in two ways. It is particles, but its future is determined by a wave. But the wave is purely mathematical. It's just a construct. Again, from the University of Tennessee, I'm not going to go through it again. It's not real. There's no physical interpretation. Einstein again. So, again, Mick stands in direct contradiction with Professor Shankar, chair of physics at Yale, University of Tennessee, Einstein, Professor Henry Stapp. Right? He's doing the Young splits again. So, pseudo Westian 2 space Young splits, you can see it. The wave, it's physical. So, Mick can see things that are not real, which have no physical interpretation. From dpt.nhs.uk. Is that NHS? Is that National Health Services in UK?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Here's what they say. A hallucination involves seeing, hearing, or smelling or tasting something that doesn't actually exist. Hallucinations can be the result of mental health problems like Alzheimer's disease, dementia, schizophrenia, but also can be caused by other things, including alcohol or drugs. Experiencing hallucinations can be confusing and can cause significant distress. So it's important that you seek help as soon as you can. What to do? If you're experiencing hallucinations, then you need to speak to your GP. Is that a general practitioner in the UK?
Yes.
Okay. You need to speak to your GP as soon as possible. While hallucinations may not be unpleasant or currently cause you any problems, they could be the symptoms of serious mental health conditions like schizophrenia. Your GP, general practitioner, will work with you to attempt to identify the cause of your hallucinations, Mick. As part of the process, you may need to speak to a psychiatrist. Okay? Quick comments, questions?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly disagree with your approach of the problem.
Really?
It's not gonna solve. Yeah, pharmaceuticals are not gonna help them. It's just gonna sedate. It doesn't work. That they're suppressing a problem, and they need to personally be confronted with it, and also kind of get the feeling eventually somehow that it's okay. To let go.
It's
because
okay
that's
to
the biggest
see
problem
that aren't there.
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
they need help,
pharmaceuticals are
Arwen.
not. I know, but pharmaceuticals are not
Arwen.
really the solution. They're just
I've
symptom.
got to do,
fight-
sorry, everybody. Sorry, I've got to take the debate away from whether or not treating these hallucinating monkeys with what the NHS would recommend or a good old slap in the face. It doesn't matter. The point
Just a
is
really good talking.
reifying a wave function into an actual wave. He's hallucinating a concept into existence. We see it a lot with people when they describe space-time. Well, those people should seek medical help, and we do advise exactly that when it happens. So this is no different. Seek help, Mick West. You seem to be reifying something that is not actually in existence into being physical and real. No, that would be equally and accurately described as a hallucination on your part. Seek help, Mick West. Seek help.
I advise psychological counsel and not necessarily medical counsel.
Okay, any more comments?
Move on.
Okay. Show it to
Young
us.
Slit.
Post a
It's
picture right
visible.
now.
Someone
see it. I want to
posted.
see it. Can you?
I can see the green codes falling down like Neo
Okay,
from the
but
Matrix.
let's not yell and hurl insults, man. Just for the,
It's
the PR
Posh
point.
Bajos.
From the University of
Just
Tennessee,
posted
in
it.
one dimension, wave functions are often denoted by the symbol psi. They are functions of the coordinate x and the t time. But psi is not real. But a complex
But you can
function
see it.
does not have
You see the
real-
interference.
See, don't rumpus me, you clown. You don't even know what an experiment is.
Reality. You're denying reality. You
Oh,
can actually
kiss
see.
my ass! I just pummeled you. Pummeled
You can actually see it. Are you denying that you can see the effect of young
Oh
slits?
my god. But the wave function itself has no physical interpretation.
That is a physical interpretation. You can actually see
The University
it.
of Tennessee, the professor of physics at Yale, Richard Feynman, and now we got Mick Pseudo fucking West telling us the opposite.
Right. Well, if you want to deny the evidence of your own
Deny
eyes,
the
then
evidence,
that's fine.
bullshit. You don't have any evidence. You just got clobbered, and you already didn't know that. You don't even know what an experiment is, Mick.
Wikipedia.
You want to know what denying the evidence of your own eyes is, Mick? It's looking at the sun and the moon and thinking that they're different sizes. That's denying your own eyes.
This guy doesn't
I
even
would
know
say
what an
it's a-
experiment
it's a-
is. He doesn't even
They
know.
are
Yeah, it's a
slightly
little
different
weird.
sizes.
It's a little weird that you don't know what an experiment is, and you just said that you teach it.
The
You
thing
teach
is, like,
science. You don't know
experiments.
the parts of an experiment.
The vernacular of an experiment is just something that you do to test or to demonstrate a hypothesis.
Yeah, but you need things in this test to conduct it, right?
Oh, you don't. You this like you.
So, a fellow ballbuster, Chocolate Sane, confronts him with, you need things in this test to conduct it, right? Pseudo Westian 2 space. No, you don't. So, according to Mick, you don't need things in a test, an experiment. So, they're not, I don't know what you're going to comment on here. I'll throw it over to you, but go ahead.
Completely there.
Anything here?
Chocolate will pipe up.
Yes, at one point I was, waiting to hear him like start shaving.
Yes. Yeah, he was truly lost for words from my attuning on the sound of his voice and how he was representing himself. I really caught the feeling that he was truly lost, that he honestly didn't know, that he was honestly confused, that it wasn't an act, that he wasn't lying. It's unique. I can't call it anything else.
It's wrong. He says at some point he says that it is a physical manifestation. Just flat out wrong.
Did Mick West say he could see light waves?
Essentially, he said you can't see it. Do you deny the evidence of your own eyes? And then he said, but it is a physical manifestation. So he's denying everything. The one interrupting and being the most loud and his little chuckle as he declares total nonsense. You know, it's always the way. The one that's piping up the most and being the most, arrogant is the most wrong in this example. Mick West. He hasn't got the vaguest clue what he's talking about. He's constantly reifying and saying it's physical and it does have a physical manifestation and you can see it. No, you can't. He's just flat out wrong.
So
he was talking about the interference pattern. And he's thinking that means that light's a wave. That's really what it was. Somebody posted it in the chat and he was like, look, there it is. You could see it.
So did Mick West actually say he could see light waves?
Yes. He said that you could see it and they're physical.
Fields?
Yeah, he said you could see it.
He can see magnetic fields.
He said you could see it and it's physical. That's his own words up previously, not this one.
So he's saying he can see magnetic fields, electric fields.
That's another subject, but he could see the waves.
Fantastic.
But
Just
he's
wrong.
hallucinating. He's not seeing waves because the wave is a wave function.
Gosh, what else can that man see? He's a wonder.
Well, I'll tell you what he can't see. He can't see the things in an experiment because he just said you don't need anything in an experiment.
Just X2. Light is not a wave. The description of a probability distribution, also known as wave function, is what is attributed to this light when you have an interference pattern. Now, that mathematical description is being reified into something real by Mick West.
Oh,
denying
just wait.
the evidence. No, it just doesn't exist. It isn't real. It's just a description mathematically. But he doesn't seem to get it and wants to interrupt and tell you how wrong you are. And then the outrage at the end is, I can't remember what exactly he said. I should have written it down. But words to the effect of you're denying reality, or words to that effect, again, is a go-to if they're being pummeled. Because the unfortunate reality is that when you don't understand this stuff, you haven't got the comprehension skills to wrap your head around what light actually is. You don't also understand the rebuttal when it absolutely pummels you. So he hasn't sunk into Mick West. He's too stupid to comprehend the absolute pummeling he's had from Quantum Eraser. So his rebuttal to the demolition that came his way was to say, you just deny reality. Just an off-the-cuff, baseless assertion.
So you said he said that it is real, right? You heard him say up above that it is real, right? All right, so let's get this one by Chocolate saying he says you don't need things in this test to conduct it, right? So Mick West says that you don't need things in an experiment, right? That's where we're at here. Okay, can we move on?
Let's move on. Pop yourselves on mute.
Remember, Mick said above that it's physical. He can see it. Now let's see what he has to say.
You get the idea that you need a dependent variable, an independent variable, and controls.
Idea, that's a scientific method. Yeah, we get that idea from the scientific method, and we're trying to demonstrate cause and effect relationships without personal bias.
Now, he said you don't
but
need
you
them.
can demonstrate very simple things, like you say, does light does it act like a wave? If it acts like a wave, then if you did a double slit
Listen to him.
experiment, there would be constructive and destructive interference, and you did the
That's
experiment.
the wave function for the 10th time.
It's something that actually happens, though.
What's
does
a function?
Does it happen or not?
What's a function? Hold on a second. What's a function? Hold on a second. What's a function, Mick?
In what context? A function is it's basically a mapping of one variable through a mathematical approach to another, like a sine.
Mathematical construct. It's a function, a complex function, Mick.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Is this
you ain't
QED I'm
asking
talking to
me
here?
shit. You don't even know what a hypothesis is.
All right.
Hey, Quantum.
You don't
Hey,
have to know all that stuff. You can still do
Quantum.
some decent experiments.
Quantum. We're on the same side of this fence. But I realize it's like sometimes you have to realize when you're dealing with people that are trying to disprove like
No concern trolling. We're just
naturality.
diverting.
Jedi, you hear
Come
me
on.
right? It's like you start to
Yeah,
realize.
I hear you, mate. Yeah, I get
At the
you.
end of
But
the day,
come
like
on.
these guys came here to try to prove to us something that we can prove ourselves with math and logic and science. So at the end of the day, we don't have to start to get upset or like get rivaled or triggered by that.
Yeah, but they're pretender
We have to
clowns.
make sure. Oh, I already know.
He's just doing his
At the end of the day,
job.
we should always.
At the moment, what we're doing is we're talking about light and it acting like a mathematical model.
But
Now, a
we should be-
mathematical model isn't real, is it?
It doesn't matter if it's real. Like,
Did you catch that? Pseudo McWestian 2 space. It doesn't matter if it's real. Now it doesn't matter. But Mick, you just said above that you can see it. The wave. And it's physical. So which is it? Right? Is it real or is it not real? You just reconfirmed that you're seeing things that aren't real. See hallucinations above. Comments, questions on this quickly?
I like the fact that the guy, he said it while there's another guy, I don't know who he is, but he's ace, whoever he is, he's summarising it beautifully in this voice that's so condescending and going, God, he's taking something that's mathematical and saying it's bloody real, and then you hear Mick West, doesn't matter if it's real. You know what I mean? It's just a nice little moment.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Indio. It could have been FE Jedi. I'd have to go back and listen to it. Okay, any other comments?
FE Jedi.
FE Jedi?
Shout out to you, my friend. Nice summary.
All right, you want to continue?
Yeah, let's continue. I don't think there's anything else. Just double check. Any more for any more? Anybody? You, Arwin. Move on.
I just took a smoke break.
No worries. Just prick your ears up for the next section. Go ahead. Everyone pop yourselves on mute.
Okay,
Bring Neil deGrasse Tyson here.
Mick said he doesn't have to have independent and dependent variables in an experiment, right? He just said that.
Well, it depends what type
that
of.
happen?
If you want to have a strict
Penn State
interpretation
University.
of a scientific experiment,
Let's go through these. Can we go through them, Mick? So we have
Through
Mick
what?
that says you don't have to have Mick. Can I
but
speak
you
here,
know,
please?
You don't have to be frustrated by guys that are just talking shit, trying to fucking waste.
Can
their
I
time
speak,
and-
please? I'm gonna
Sir,
refute
I understand.
Mick. Pseudo McWestian 2 space. I'm gonna refute him right now. Are we ready?
space. We live in 3 space.
Not according to your friggin' fairy tale gas model, but I digress. We'll get to that in a moment. Experiment.
Sure,
You said
the
you
gas
didn't
model, that's
need
good.
Mick. You said you didn't need a dependent and independent variable in an experiment, right? That's what you said?
For the common understanding of what an experiment
Yeah, I got
is,
you
a
on
procedure
tape, so
carried
that's what
out,
you
yeah.
said. Here we go.
You
Experiment,
have me on
Penn State
tape?
University.
It's
There
very-
should be 3 categories of variables in every experiment. Dependent, independent, and controlled. The Institute of Physics.
That would be great.
Yeah, that would be great now, wouldn't it?
That's just one definition.
That's
of what
okay.
an
Let's get
experiment
another
is.
one. Institute of Physics. When planning
I mean,
an
it's
investigation,
the same. You're giving the same
students need- Please
definition
shut up,
over and
Mick.
over again.
When I'm pummeling
No, I'm
you,
going to keep
please
talking.
shut up.
You're just going to
hold
keep
on.
doing the same thing over and over
Yeah, I'm
again.
going to keep refuting your dumb ass
Hold on, I'm
over
going
and
to take
over again.
control, John. Going to take control. If you're just going to turn around in a minute and say, no, I'm just going to keep over talking you, then that's not helping the conversation. Just let him finish. I'm sure he'll finish much quicker if you stop interrupting him.
Yeah, but I know he's going to do the
No,
same.
don't even appeal to me. Next person to speak is going to be John. He's going to finish, and then you're going to answer.
Institute of Physics. When planning an investigation, need to identify the variables that they consider significant and then select the ones they want to look at for cause and effect. If possible, any other variables that will affect the outcome of the experiment will need to be kept constant during the investigation. The variables are independent variable, dependent variable, and controls. Anne-Marie Helmutstein, PhD, Biomedical Sciences. When you design an experiment, you are controlling and measuring variables. There are 3 types of variables in an experiment: controlled, independent, dependent. Is that enough yet? Do we need to go a little further for you, Mick?
Fine by me, because I already said that. That's one
you already
useful
aware of those
definition of an
definitions?
scientific experiment. Yeah. I mean, that's the type of
why are
thing
you
that
being
Nathan
so
Oakley
loose in your
likes to
language,
go on about it. Because when people talk about an experiment, they don't necessarily mean that very, very precise thing. They often just mean something
What do you
like
mean it in the colloquial sense? Experiment? Just the broad umbrella experiment?
We were talking about
So, like, you know,
scientific communication.
when I meet a girl at the bar, I want to
how
experiment.
to
Scientific experiment.
Science.
And you're
It's-
saying
Can I-
you don't need an IV, DV, and a CV. That's what you're saying.
I think that if you're trying to communicate science, those are not useful concepts to discuss with the general public.
What
because
the
they don't
experiment
understand what they
and
are.
breaking it down into a very easily formulated method of where your dependent variable comes from, you know, your naturally observed phenomena, and then how you build your hypothesis, you know,
Generally,
you're answering the question of what causes that. So there's your independent variable, and then obviously you've got a control shit. So there's your controlled variables. You then got to take this forward in your experiment and test your hypothesis. Without
How
these
well
independent variables
has
that are
this
very
been working
easily
for you?
explained, if that
How well has it
you
been
just
working
hand
for you,
wave
this
them away
method?
and them in an experiment. Can you point doesn't involve something that you're trying to manipulate to prove a cause of an effect?
Let him answer. Let him
I think
answer
you're just
because
getting-
hold on. Calm down. He said that you didn't need an independent or dependent variable in an experiment. I provided many citations here that said the opposite. Let him answer, please.
Talking about scientific communication. And when you talk about things like dependent variables and independent variables and control groups, it confuses things for the general public. It's usually better simply to describe what the experiment does. You can keep that other stuff in the background as useful information. Like, this is why we need these things. We need controls. We need like this independent variable. We need a dependent variable. But in terms of scientific communication, it's usually best just to describe what's actually going on and what
Mick,
it
you
shows.
baited.
So,
Mick, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop you. You baited and switched us. I didn't ask you what you were teaching them. I asked you personally, what are the 3 constituent parts of an experiment? And you didn't know.
yeah, I couldn't remember off the top of my head at the time, and now I remember.
So did you all see what he did there? He baited and switched us with a clumsy straw man fallacy because I specifically asked him personally, what are the 3 constituent parts of a scientific experiment? Not what he teaches as a science communicator, so he's still calling himself a science communicator. I just want to stress that again. Okay? I already busted him here. Any comments? Do you see how he tried the old switcheroo?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. Mick West kind of implies that he like dumbs it down like for the general public, but I don't think he realizes 12-year-olds get taught the like scientific like method.
Exactly.
Yep. Any other comments, or could we move on?
No, Dr. John summarised precisely what I was going to say. You know, that should be slightly outraging if you're listening to him communicate with you in a dumbed down kind of way where you need to know these bits and then he ruffles your head. Well, fair enough if that's what you want from your science communicator, who when put to task doesn't actually know what are the constituent parts of an experiment. I mean, presumably during this discourse, he's actually gone away and Googled it, or at least I hope he did, given that he was pummeled for so long on it.
I have a question, if I may.
Hi, Darwin.
Was he aware that he was being recorded?
Yes, I told. Yes, yes, I told him earlier. I said, "I got you on tape." He goes, "You're taping me?" And then he said, "Scary." So yes, he is aware.
Okay, that's.
But I think
Wow.
even before that, I think he knew he was on it. He knew he was on a live stream.
Oh, the live
24/7
stream.
Discord is live streamed anyway.
Right.
Always.
That's amazing. Then, yeah, look, before he went on the debates, I had heard of him. I've never really heard him interact a lot or seen his stuff. But this just makes him sound like just one of the ballers. It's just terrible. Like, wow.
He is.
It's kind
He's
of
one of the
disappointing.
head
It's kind of
Yeah, he's
really
one of the head
disappointing.
Yeah, he's one of the top tier, top brass, head baller, whatever you want to call him. This is one of the people they go to answers for. Unbelievable,
It's so
eh?
disappointing.
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't heard anything yet.
Move on.
Any more for any more out there? Any admin?
Nope, no admin.
Why?
Let's smash the super channel. Yeah, let's pop yourselves on mute. We'll move on with the presentation.
Yeah. So remember, he's talking about he's a science communicator again, right? I just want to stress that for like the 15th time. He's still a science communicator. Let him reinforce it. Yeah.
Man, can I quote you? Can I quote you from Wikipedia? It all stems from a fundamental distrust of science and authority. Are you not trusting science and authority when you say those things? Like you don't have to explain the variables. Like,
So you're
what's that all
quoting
about?
Wikipedia? Like, if you look at the Wikipedia,
Are these
article-
your words or not? Are those your words or not?
Which words?
The word on Wikipedia.
Which ones? What? I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Read them again.
I didn't write anything.
Right. Yeah, just read them again.
It all stems from a fundamental distrust of science and authority. You are always going to get a percentage of people who are true believers. My goal is to minimize that as much as possible, to stop people falling for it and help them get out as easily as possible. What does that mean?
That is what I said.
So we're talking about the scientific method here,
accurate.
and we're asking for the variables, and you're saying, what are you saying? You don't need those, or what? You don't need to
I'm saying
explain
it's
that
not
to us?
productive. It's not productive for communication
not
for the general
productive?
public.
It
Well, we're
sounds
not the
to me
general
like he's
public here.
describing atheists when it comes to religion.
But people ask me about science communication. They said, you're a science communicator. What is science? And I was trying to talk about it in the context of science communication.
So we not only have him talking about himself as a science communicator again on Mick West's website, or I'm sorry, on Wiki site for Mick West. There he is, folks. Mick West is a science writer, investigator, and a retired video game programmer. He is the creator of the websites Contrail Science and Metabunk, for which he investigates and debunks pseudoscientific claims such as chemtrails, UFOs, and conspiracy theories. He has appeared in various media as an expert analyst and science communicator. Okay? He's a science communicator, folks. He said it a number of times. It's on his site. He didn't even realize the words that he was talking to. Somebody was bringing them up to him. So I just wanted to bring that to light. Mainly focusing on Mick as a science communicator. Correct? This is what he said. Please, people ask me about science communication. They say, you're a science communicator. What is science? So obviously people think that Mick is a science communicator, right? Everyone's got that so far. All right, let's move on.
Hold on.
Nice.
The only thing I would add to that is he says, people ask you what science is, and you tell them in the context of science communication. In other words, a bit like if you ask what refraction is, he'll start telling you in the context of terrestrial refraction. If you ask him what science is, he'll tell you in the context of science communication. In other words, he'll tell you all about what's what in his field, but he hasn't got the vaguest clue what science actually is. but he'll tell you all about what science is when asked, and he'll give you the context of science communication. That's what he actually said. When answering what is science, he'll tell you in context of what is science communication. That was his answer.
Yes, sir. I'm just stressing that he's a science communicator. He's admitted he's a science communicator. He's admitted here a number of times he's a science communicator. And on the wiki page, it says he's a science communicator. Are we clear on this? Everyone.
Crystal.
Good.
Ridiculous.
Can we move on? I got
Can I insert a little
quickly
interesting detail here? So I've been in communication in the chat currently in YouTube with Rune Thorson. He says that he has a snippet recording of him, Mick West, admitting on Joe Rogan that his father was in the Flat Earth Society. What? Have you heard of this?
Until the end, because otherwise the point will get lost. Science communicator. We're all crystal clear. That's what he's claiming he is. That's what's on his wiki page. Let's move on.
Sorry.
All right, we're going to move on. Here we go.
No,
Do you even know what that is? Do you even know what that is? Makes you a show.
I had some admin to convey here.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We have a super chat from Rob King, and he says, reinforce the pseudo Westian 2 space, and he says, Rakia Live, shout out to Dave Gafford.
Dave's a star. Thanks for the super chat, sir. Appreciate it. All right.
Third time's a charm. So we're crystal clear from his website, from Wikipedia, from his own lips. The man's a science communicator, despite not knowing what science actually is.
Okay, we're clear on that. He's admitted it, correct? It's crystal clear. Okay, can we move?
Do it.
Go.
That's such a corporate little turd term. You know that, right? I'm a science communicator. I'm a product communicator. I communicate what the product is. You're an advertiser.
I don't say I'm a science
create
communicator.
synergies.
Did you hear him? You're going to have to rewind it. Pseudo Westian 2 space. I don't say that I'm a science communicator. He said it. Huh? Then why do people ask you about science communication if you didn't portray yourself as a science communicator? I mean, you admitted it here a number of times. It's on your wiki page. Do random people randomly assign you as a science communicator, Mick? How'd they come up with that? I mean, I don't know. Nathan, do people just walk up to you and ask you to cut their rough diamonds because they think you're a jeweler? Just out of the blue? I mean, this is...
No. But just before he was saying it, he was explaining how he does it. How he does communicate science.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, poor guy.
I'm seeing a classic signs of global self-contradiction. It gets chronic eventually.
No, this I don't think. No, this is clinical.
It is already, but it becomes chronic. You know, we've seen it with Brenda. She does it like every appearance now. Like eventually, it'll become like standard.
Yeah, but that's Brenda.
If Globers start contradicting themselves literally, and then first it pops up, and people like what? But eventually, it becomes normal, and they do it all the time.
Yeah, but that's Brenda. We're talking about Pseudo Westian 2 space. He's the top tier here.
It's all the same.
All right. Well, I'm going to summarize at the end, and it's going to be really scary. So we could just move on from here. Everyone's got it. He said he was a science communicator a number of times. I wanted to stress that. And then he says, I don't say that I'm a science communicator. I think I made my point. Back to light. We ready to move?
Do it.
You know, there is no bad scientific theories. Scientific theories are validated, confirmed hypotheses. There's a lot of things that go under the term theory that are not scientific theories.
to the general public, the word theory and the word hypothesis are pretty much interchangeable. Sure, not for scientists.
Yeah,
but for the general public.
that's the problem.
Not
Yeah,
scientific
that's
theory,
intentional.
man. You're talking
Someone
about
earlier here used
colloquial
the-
theory
That's intentional.
or
That's
scientific
politics.
theory.
Yeah,
And this is why words mean things.
That's just you changing the meaning of words so you can weasel it around and make it mean whatever you want. And that's
The
been
meaning of
intentional.
words
And politicians,
is how people use them.
politicians
like
have been doing that
refraction.
for a long time.
Really? What?
There's a word that we use quite often, just band it around, hoping it's going to do something that it probably won't because you can't demonstrate it. Refraction. Words do
Demonstrate it.
definitely mean things as well. Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Let's get back to this bending of light, and you tell us what light is. Let's go.
All right, excellent. So the problem is that, like, I brought up the idea that light kind of acts as if it is a wave.
Wrong. You're wrong,
there's
Mick.
things-
I just drug you through the friggin'. I just drug you around by the short hairs for 20 minutes over this. Okay, please tell me. Please tell me in the photoelectric context how light is a wave. Please, the floor is yours.
Well, what I'm saying is that it appears to act like a wave.
Appears is not reality. I just told you the wave function is what you're talking about. The wave function is not real. How many more times do I need to go through this?
I thought that the entire flat Earth thing was that appearances are reality.
Oh my God!
Can't you
here
just
he
know
goes
what you
again.
see?
So, Pseudo Mick Westian's 2 space, he just can't let this go. So he said, now light kind of acts as if it is a wave, and then all I'm saying is that appears to act like a wave. So we've gone from light is a wave to light acts like a wave to now light kind of acts as if it is a wave, and it appears to act like a wave. Are you currently holding political office, sir? Questions, comments on this?
Nothing.
Yeah, well, the Earth is kind of seems appearingly like a globe if you really wanted to.
Yeah, but just with this, you can see what he's doing. He's just weaseling.
Yeah.
Clumsily.
It's self-evident how clumsy he's moving across to. Well, don't you say things that are apparent are real? Well, no, we're talking specifically about your reification of a mathematical concept known as a wave function into something that's actual, or kind of actual, or acts like it's actual, which it doesn't. He just won't accept it. Because presumably, now that he's been brought back to the original question in regards to refraction, he needs it to act like a wave, right? So he doesn't want to let go of it, despite the fact he's been dragged, as you will call it, through the bushes for 20-odd minutes, getting pummeled. Ugh. Anybody else got anything to add?
I just want to say, like, I feel like this guy, like, he obviously, we know who he is. He's been around for a minute, right? He came into this room. He knew he was going to be full of flat earthers, right? He knew that this is what we talk about. We talk about the shape of the earth when we talk about science. So if he is a science communicator, right, why would he not come in there, full power level, full science communicator power level up at the highest level so he can bring his A game? So to fumble around when asked what's an experiment and not know, or what are the parts of an experiment and not know it, and then later on tell us how he has to dumb himself down to teach people this stuff. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't go for it because it's ridiculous to me. Go for it.
Is the personification of pseudoscience. So he's condescending to his audience, speaking from a position of authority, and labeling himself as science communicator. Now, what he's actually communicating is his models on his website and his models in terms of his reification of a sphere Earth. That's what he's actually communicating. That's the information he's discussing when he goes out and about on his radio shows. Well, he's not talking about science because he doesn't know what science is. So in reality, as stated at the beginning, he's a pseudoscience salesman. not science communicator. Now, what is pseudoscience? Well, it's the claim of being science when you're not adhering to the scientific method. The guy doesn't even know what the scientific method is and feels that when communicating what science actually is, he'll communicate to them what science communication is. And science communication is pseudoscience. He's not talking, there's been no point in this discussion with Mick West where he's explained about a phenomena that is observed and an independent variable is varied to validate a hypothesis and give scientific evidence. Not those words haven't crossed his lips at
they're
any
coming.
stage.
They're coming. Just hold off.
Should we move on? Anything else? Anybody got anything else? Thanks, Chocolate. You're spot on.
No problem.
I'm
I got some
sad
admin.
for the globe.
Go ahead, Betty.
Yeah, I got some admin. Let me go look at it. It's from Dave Rakia Gafford. He says, shout out to Rob Keane. I'm not a star. Truth is what I speak. Rakia life is God's work, not mine. God is truth.
Amen, Dave. Rock on, man.
Anything else in regards to the pseudoscience of this claim from the quote-unquote science communicator? Anything else, or should we move on?
Oh, you remember he said he's a science communicator, and then he said he wasn't a science communicator, and then he said he was a science communicator. He's going to say it again, too.
I do have something to discuss about Mick West with regards to the refraction point.
Refraction's
so
coming up.
Yeah, when it's suitable, just come back to me on refraction.
Okay. It's coming. All right, we ready?
I love me some light bending. Go ahead.
We're ready, let's go.
Let's forget this whole wave thing then. Let's just ignore that for now. Let's
Yeah,
just go back to just
Yeah, I bet.
observable refraction. Like, you would
hold
agree
on
that-
a second. Are you talking about terrestrial refraction?
Talking about refraction as a physical phenomenon.
On Earth, you're using terrestrial refraction. Is that correct?
Oh, I'm talking about light passing through a medium and
Maybe
how
talk-
the refractive index gradient affects
Okay.
the
Can you
change in the
please
angle of
post?
direction of light.
Okay, I got you. Can you please post? Let me pull Discord up in the live stream. I want the formula for refraction, please.
Which one do you want?
Which
You want
one?
Schnell's law? Because that's not the one that's actually applicable.
Which one? No, we want refraction, terrestrial refraction.
Oh, dear. So this is where we get into problems with science communication, because it gets quite complicated.
Now Mick's a science communicator again. So, Pseudo Mick Westian 2-space. Number one, let's just go back to observable refraction. And number two, this is where we get into problems with science communication, because it gets quite complicated. Like I said, he's a science communicator again. Okay, number one, this is a stone cold begging the question fallacy. Watch. Does light refract? Answer, yep. Is that the same that can be accounted for by terrestrial refraction? Answer, nope. Keyword terrestrial. You see, terrestrial refraction already assumes a sphere. That is, the calculations assume the radius of the Earth, curvature. So, from Andrew Thomas Young, keep an ear out for that name again. It's going to become very important over the next few minutes. So, Andrew Thomas Young, ATY.SDSU, that's San Diego State University. He says, the atmosphere is also curved. As it follows the shape of the Earth, in the calculations below, we'll adopt a rough value of 6,400 kilometers as the radius of curvature to make the calculation simple. So, you see this, Professor Mick? You're assuming the very thing you're attempting to prove, Earth curvature, and that equals a textbook begging the question fallacy, circular banjo do-si-do. Like I said, you see that ATY.STU or ATY.SDSU? That's Andrew Thomas Young. Remember that name, folks. San Diego State University. Right? However, Mick, you can fix that. Scientifically validate the radius of the Earth. That's what he's got to do. If you're begging the question fallacy, you got to, confirm one of your premises. You can't move on from it without confirming it. But we're going to get to this a little bit later. Oh, and number 2, now, like I said, now Mick's a science communicator. Again. Questions, comments?
He's a clown.
He's the same clown that.
Go ahead,
he's
Chocolate.
the same clown that created this calculator that these guys love to use. Like that they all were using back in the day to try to prove their globe. Until one day he came on here, or on the Flat Earth debates, and completely admitted to us that his little R radius, his R value, is an assumption based on a model.
I love
And
it.
from
I
that,
remember
and
that.
from that point, it was done. There was nobody who could come in here and on this show and tell us anything about this calculator until you prove where you got that R from. So yeah, go look it out, Mick West. Shout out to you for trying your best, and thanks.
Adam?
Oh, remember the song. Remember the
Hold on,
Midwest
Owen.
song. Don't forget.
Hold on, Owen. Owen. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, Mick West. Sorry, Owen. Just one little bit I was kind of just kept picking up on, and it's Mick's own language, and you've referred to it, Kiri. It's this scientific communicator. I was just trying to think why he keeps saying that. It's an odd one because it kind of undoes itself. He's kind of saying it to kind of sound scientific, but it's also a pre-qualifier to point out that he's not a scientist. You know, he's quite distinctifying himself from being a scientist. It's about scientific communicating. It's about getting the actual science across to you. It's diluting his authority, almost kind of subconsciously dequalifying himself to. It's an odd thing he seems to be doing. He is kind of downgrading his authority in a way. Maybe that's for me. I don't know. It's an odd thing that he's doing.
Because this is a guy that goes on Joe Rogan and talks to Joe Rogan about science and shit like that, right? Joe Rogan's not going to ask him what are the 3 parts of a scientific experiment.
But
right?
that's the point, Chocolate. He goes on there.
Oh, wouldn't that be gold?
As a kind of.
Wouldn't that be gold if he suddenly did that? Like, whoa. Come on, Joe Rogan, you can do it. Scientific method, the real one. Sorry.
So that was the point, Chocolate, that he goes on there and he's lauded as some form of scientist, that his opinion is scientific. He's speaking for the whole body of science. He's pre-qualifying his statements as not as a scientist but as a scientific communicator, which is, I'd say, odd behavior in itself. It's
Well, that's the audience that apparently he has to dumb it down for, right? Because he said that, the regular layman won't understand the vernacular of, independent, dependent, and control variable. So this is why he just, I don't really need to know that, right, Mr. Science Communicator? He doesn't need to know it because the regular masses don't care.
Yeah. In terms of when he's talking scientific method, I'm a science communicator, so I don't need to know the scientific method. I'm not actually a scientist. But like I say, it's an odd ploy.
Right. And when you don't have, I'm sorry, Adam.
Sorry, it's just an odd ploy. He seems to be now developing to defend his clearly uneducated position that he keeps getting undone and shown up by QE in the thing. So his defense point is now to keep falling back that he's not a scientist. Actually, it's a bit Bill Nye, isn't it? I'm not actually a scientist when you test him on it. I'm a scientist communicator. So his only defense now is to, like I say, downgrade his own qualification to mitigate for the quite glaring errors in and lack in his knowledge and understanding.
While I agree with you, Adam, I'd say it's much more simplistic than that. What he's punting isn't science. But if he says he's a science communicator, it instantaneously makes people believe that what he is communicating is science when it isn't. Because, of course, when he's talking to these people about his refraction, now I say his refraction because his refraction is called standard refraction, a relabeling of what he was asked to give the formula for, terrestrial refraction. Now, he laughed when he was asked that question. Now, I know why he laughed, because he's been bent over once before by Anthony Riley, who's joined us on the panel. Hopefully we'll hear something from him soon. But he's been bent over on this point, taken through it by the short hairs, by Sleeping Warrior, and pointed out that it's not just the R that Chocolate was discussing he's assuming from the standard model, as he confessed to, it's a terrestrial refraction R, begging the question on steroids, because he's assuming Earth is a sphere, and then assuming that light bends around that sphere at the rate of 7/6R as a standard rate of refraction, otherwise known as terrestrial refraction. So he's assuming the R value, as correctly pointed out, and when asked what the formula is, he laughs. Well, I'll tell you why, because he knows he's absolutely screwed when he says, 7/6R. But he hasn't got to that point yet. I don't know if he actually gives you the formula as asked. He just seemed to laugh at that question.
No.
Despite the fact it's quite openly.
He never gives it to me. He never gives it to me. I asked him more than 15 times. I never got it, and you'll hear it coming up.
It's probably because he couldn't find it on a quick search on Google.
Any more?
Anthony's speaking.
Yeah, it's probably because he can't find the answer very quickly on a quick search on Google. He has to go looking for it. Nathan, do you remember when we were back in? Pardon?
He's speaking, Nathan. Can you hear
Does
Anthony?
Nathan not hear me?
Can't. I'll drop and rejoin the hangout if it's just an issue with me. I would assume if I can't hear him, but everyone else can. So
yeah,
carry
drop
on.
back, come back in. Hold off a second, Anthony. Hold off a second.
Yeah,
Anthony.
I know it's okay. I do need Nathan to hear what I'm saying.
Anthony.
I know. I can hear what's going on.
Okay, hold off.
What's up, Riley?
Chocolate. Yo.
In Tony.
Oh, hi, Mr. Meekin.
Not bad, fella. Not bad.
Little pause. I'm sorry I don't have any music. Just make up your own. Smoke them if you got them.
Oh, Mick West.
Fella.
Have we heard anything from Sleeping Warrior?
Yeah.
Ready for you.
Can you hear me, Nathan? Nathan, can you hear me?
I'm not a science communicator, but you can think of me like as a science communicator.
Okay.
Right, John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Nathan, can you hear Anthony?
No, but we'll...
Okay, for some strange reason you can't. We're going to let Anthony speak, and when he's done, I will let you know. How about that?
Perfect.
Nathan, can you hear me now, Nathan?
No. Just continue, Anthony. Go ahead if you want to add anything.
Why would I do this? See, I need to talk to Nathan, so someone tell him to turn on the live stream so he can hear what I say.
Nathan, please turn on the live stream so you can hear what Anthony is going to tell you.
Okie dokie.
It's like you two's had an argument and QE's having
I'm not talking to you. Go sit in your corner. That's really weird.
Yeah, it is weird. Hey, Nathan, let me know when you're in the live stream.
I'm all good. I can hear Anthony. I'm just listening to him with a slight delay. So yeah, again.
All right, Anthony, roll on, sir. The floor is yours.
All right. So I was listening before, and you were saying about Dr. John and how Mick West seems to be cozying up to him and being friendly with him. I've realised recently that he's got on his Metabunk curve on his Metabunk website. There's a refraction simulator. And if you go and look onto it, if you just type in Metabunk refraction simulator in Google, you'll find it. And what he's done is he's got like Genefredo's and all the observations that we've used like at any time in the past. He's got them as templates down the left-hand side towards the bottom of his refraction simulator. And basically, when we were, if you think back to the Hangouts, whilst we were arguing over how refraction works and what it does and what it can't do, and how it doesn't behave and what's reasonable and all that kind of stuff, the ins and outs of bendy light. One of the things that me and Nathan basically realised and concluded was that no matter how far behind the curve it is, they'll just stick a little bit more refraction on it, and they'll just add another super looming. So instead of being just looming, it'll be super looming, and then it'll be super mega deep looming, and then it'll be super mega deep times 2 looming, and they'll just add more and more refraction. So if you go to his website and you find the refraction simulator, he's got a graph in the top right hand corner where you can play around with the parameters of what he says is reasonable refraction, and basically you'll see your own arse in a telescope with the refraction calculator. That's how it's working. So in other words, no matter what experiment, no matter what observation we ever do, he's always going to be able to just move the graph around and explain it with refraction, regardless of how accurate it is. For what I mean, we all know that light bends up as well as down, and it varies from point to point. Soundly demonstrated that with his 7 mile little Tensor Bayou observation. But on his curve calculator, he can just play around with the graph and make anything look like it's flat just by playing around with his refraction simulator, even though refraction doesn't do what any part of what his simulator demonstrates. It's completely dishonest, but I think that's why I think he wants a bit of information out of Dr. John D so we can finish off part of his observation or something, because I can't see any reason why he'd be like friendly with him. But I just wanted to add that in case you weren't aware of it. It's worth looking at. Everything's on there that we've all talked about. In other words, it'll always be explained with refraction.
Nathan, sir?
Absolutely. They'll always have refraction as part of their model, which also gives you a slightly different instance where nothing is where it's supposed to be when you look out with a reification of a globe model as your basis of what you see rather than what your eyeballs present. But that means that literally nothing is where it's supposed to be. Everything's a hologram. Literally, everything.
Are you finished, Anthony?
Yeah, I'm done.
More to add?
I just wanted to remind people that light doesn't follow a curved path. It varies from point to point, because that's the most important thing. It goes up as well as down. It doesn't just bend down.
Any more for any more?
Yep. All of the observations we've done, like over water at night, light does not bend down, up, always up. I can show you picture after picture of the lasers, like not going down, but like upwards. Plenty to show if like people want to see them.
Well, that's following Fermat's principle, correct? If the more dense medium is lower to the Earth's surface, that's Fermat's principle.
Yep, they go up.
Yep.
They go up. And I'm sure there are times when light does go down.
To show.
I'm sure there are occasions when light will bend down, but it's just not.
Hold on, Anthony.
Just for the audience's benefit, Dr. John, what's your expertise?
Spectrophotometry. Light.
What's, as a dumbed down for the audience's benefit, what is that exactly? The study of what?
The interaction of light with particles.
Thank you. And just one more thing.
How light...
Go on, sorry.
How light's absorbed by particles, transmitted by particles, refracted by particles, reflected by particles, just like light and particles.
And at any point during your application of study, do you ever assume a radius value of a sphere when doing that?
No, because that wouldn't make sense.
When describing refraction with an Earth model in mind, would it be reasonable to do the same, i.e. assume refraction at a rate applicable to an Earth radius?
No, that wouldn't make sense.
You'd agree that it just simply assumes that Earth has a radius, though?
What does? The standard refraction model?
Yes. It assumes we have an R value for an Earth, and it assumes light bends around that presupposed Earth with an R value at a rate of 7/6R as a standard.
Yes, which is complete nonsense, because it would depend upon what the light is passing like over. So like whether the light is passing over like vegetation, grassland, like concrete, tarmac, water, the results will be completely different. So you literally can't have a standard value. There is no standard value.
To assume a standard value and then assume that your standard value is also absolutely in relation to a radius value you have assumed for the ground you're standing on would be absurd, ridiculous.
Would be one large
Wrong.
assumption, yeah, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
One large assumption, yeah, that can't be proved. And it never has been proved.
Thank you, Dr. John. Did you want to add something, Anthony? I'll have to queue up my live stream, but
no, I'm good. I'm good.
Tony said he's
yes,
good.
yes.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, sorry. I would just like to say I've been typing in the Discord. If anyone wants to come and do, some of these observations with lasers to see the beam not bending down, they just have to send me an email and we will book a weekend and then they can come down, try the lasers and see that they don't bend down. Like an open invitation to all.
Oh,
just
didn't you
segue.
kindly offer that to Mick West, that offer?
It's a good segue. Just before you hijack the segue. So these are two different things. This is the point. There's two different things being talked about. One is studied by Dr. John. It's his profession. It's his field. That would be refraction. It's one of those things he listed. It's his expertise. Now, refraction is an actual effect that you can study in a medium. Now, terrestrial refraction is a bit like science communication. It's not science. It's actually pseudoscience. And it's not refraction. It's terrestrial refraction, a begging the question fallacy on steroids. R, Earth radius, and 7/6 R, Earth radius again. So it's definitely nothing to do with actual refraction. That's something totally separate. Now, they do a little bait and switch when they argue with us, which is make you think you're talking about refraction and the effects of what light does. And that was what Mick West did at the end of the last snippet. Make it seem like he's talking about what light does. No, he's going to be arbitrarily applying terrestrial refraction, something totally different, a begging the question fallacy on steroids that utilizes an R value and bends light around a presupposed radius value. That's what it's doing, bending light around the curve of the Earth that they presuppose is the curve of the Earth. That's what it actually is. Nothing to do with light and what it really does in reality. Just an arbitrary, totally different formula they've come up with as a standard called terrestrial refraction. So I just want to distinguish that these two things are not the same. So when people are debating, you've got to have your antennae up and go, are we actually talking about something where someone has gone out and measured every 100, not even 100 feet, every foot to get the differences in temperature of the air and the differences in the composition of whatever the heat is going through, the humidity, couldn't find that word, have they got all of those measurements for every foot between you and a 30-mile observation that you're making so that they can tell you what the light is actually doing based on the composition of the air and all of the different other variables that you probably couldn't even factor? Well, no, they're not. They're arbitrarily saying light bends around a curved Earth. That's nothing to do with refraction. They just happen to have the word refraction in there, like Mick West happens to have the word science in science communication, even though he's a pseudoscientist punting models and mathematical reifications. So just want to distinguish. Reified Earth curve radius, that's terrestrial refraction, and then what Dr. John Dee has been studying, refraction. Two totally separate things. One reifies a globe Earth. One is the study of what light actually does. They might happen to have one word similar, but one is refraction, light and what it does. The other is terrestrial refraction, bending light around a curved Earth you've presupposed, just to make that distinction clear.
Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate for stressing that, man. Anthony said he didn't have anything else, but he did call you a Burke.
Perfect. Can we move on? Any more in this presentation?
Yes.
Excellent. Should everyone pop yourselves on mute? We'll move on.
Refraction happens because of the refractive index slows down light. So
I don't want to, Mick. What did I just ask you for?
The equation of refraction. But so I guess if you want an equation, I've got to know what are the inputs of that equation and what's the output.
You're the one that claimed refraction, Mick. What do you want me? It's not my job to support your claims. So please give me how they compute terrestrial refraction. That's all I want. We're going to evaluate the formula to see if there's any begging the question fallacies in it.
Right. So fundamentally, the refraction is governed by the speed of light in a medium. The speed of light in a medium is the speed of light in a vacuum divided by the refractive index.
No, it's not.
And that's it.
No, it's not. You don't know this. Don't go into the speed of light, Mick. We want the terrestrial. Go to Wiki for sake, at least.
That actually is the underlying formula for
the simplification.
Refraction.
That's actually a simplification.
All right.
But we're not seeing light travel through a vacuum. So why would you invoke that? We're talking about here, right? There are no vacuums here on Earth.
what you're trying to yeah. You know what a refractive index is?
No, we just want to see the equation they use for refraction. That's all I asked for.
That is the equation that you use for refraction. It's the speed of light divided by refractive index.
Where do they get the refractive index from, Mick? I want to see every variable in this equation. Okay, see, Mick, with equations, right? Every mathematician will tell you that every variable in an equation must be rigorously defined. I want you to post that friggin' equation right now, and I want you to define all the variables. You claimed it, you support it.
You're a programmer. You know that.
Damn, variables. There are two variables here, which is the speed of light. Well, it's not a variable, it's a constant. The refractive index is the only actual variable.
Oh my God.
Now, the refractive index varies based on the density of the air, which kind of varies
Optical
based
density.
on temperature
It's
and
the
pressure
optical
and
density, not the mass density.
and humidity. Yeah. The optical density, which defines the refractive index.
There's a square root of epsilon times mu.
So the refractive index
electric
curves it around
permittivity
the
of free
globe
space,
perfectly.
and mu being the magnetic permeability of free space. So that's the actual refractive index. The values the values of vacuum is 1, and every other medium is set relative to that.
But I think the thing that's missing here is
obviously.
I think the thing
that's
missing here is that
actually
people
pretty
made
straightforward.
Yeah, hold on a second. I think the thing that's missing here is like people are assuming that the refractive index is perfectly following the curve of the globe. Like over 20, 30, 40, 50 miles is following perfectly.
No,
like
what
the
happens?
reflective index within, water or whatever medium that we're talking about is going to be whatever it is. But to follow to assume that it's going to follow the globe perfectly all the way along at whatever distance we're talking about is ludicrous.
Not what anybody's saying.
It's laughable.
Nobody is saying that. So you can laugh at it all you like, but no one's saying it. So you're laughing at ghosts.
So then at what point does refraction become a moot point? At what point?
Well, it never becomes a moot point.
10 miles? Like, give me a number so I know, like, okay, refraction goes up until this point.
Refraction is always there because the atmosphere is always there, but usually
Always
you get
there,
extinction.
There's no demonstration
it's actually
that it's always there.
What distance?
It
What
goes
measurement?
into
Give me a number. Give me some numbers so I can put my numbers to it.
Yeah,
Up
the
to what
best
distance?
refraction you should have is 7 inches per mile squared. I think the max with 7.6R is like 6.8 inches per mile squared. That's why it helps to put this discussion within certain boundaries.
That's a simplification.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I was explaining earlier.
The boundaries
You have to
matter.
look at.
Act like the boundaries don't matter. It's like
No,
talking
they
shit.
don't. They don't matter.
Let's
They don't
put these
matter.
things within boundaries. Where does refraction bend? How much does it bend? And to what limits does it bend? And if
It's
it's
a
beyond the
continuous
limits of
thing.
refraction, if we're talking about something that's beyond the limits of refraction, then we shouldn't even be talking about refraction anymore.
If I can see
We
shit
need
that's
to look in
further than
history for the
refraction,
greatest
if I can see
refractions
shit,
in history,
you
and
fine.
let's put that down as the refractive index. Let's try that, and put this thing within certain boundaries.
Exactly. Yeah. Well
That's
said,
not how
Lemon
it works,
Bird.
though.
Well said, Lemon Bird.
You have to use
That's
ray
not how, of
tracing.
course, that's not how it works. We don't
Oh
understand.
God,
first
Rick,
principles.
you still haven't answered my question though. Mick, do you see the live stream?
Yeah, I see the chat.
Do you
Is that what
see
you mean? Live stream
quantum
voice chat?
eraser? Do you see my post right in there? Can you scroll
Yeah,
up?
atmosphere is curved, follows the shape of the Earth. Calculations below.
Follows the
Rough
shape of the
value.
Of course it does. How
What
coincidental.
are you asking here?
Well, I'm not asking anything. I'm showing you that terrestrial refraction takes into account the radius of the Earth.
Well, that's because the atmosphere is curved.
So, okay, so it's a beg. You have to prove that the atmosphere is curved.
Wow.
Prove the
Listen,
atmosphere is curved.
can I bring up
All
a
right,
point?
Well,
hold on a second. Let Mick prove that the atmosphere is curved.
we know that the if the surface of the ocean is curved, we can see that.
So you're begging the question.
We're not using refraction. We're not using
You're about to
refraction to
talk
curve the curvature
circular
of the Earth.
reasoning here, right? That's the only curvature you're about to find.
Seize
him.
I don't know.
You just said the atmosphere. Now it's the ocean.
Right. So, folks, I posted this right here, that same citation from Andrew Thomas Young from San Diego State University. He just skimmed over it because that's where he got the atmosphere is also curved stuff, right? Before we even got to this definition, he stated that. So this is where he got it from. The atmosphere is also curved as it follows the shape of the Earth. In the calculations below, we'll adopt the rough value of 6,400 kilometers as the radius of curvature. Like I said, this is begging the question fallacy. That's why I wanted him to put the equation down so we could take a look at it and have him define the variables, because then I'd expose that. So I posted this citation into the live stream chat on 24/7 Discord. And he's stepping and fetching, trying to get out of this, right? This is going to start to get really funny. All right. Any quick questions, comments?
Yes, please. So the whole panel that you were accompanied by, Missed the Bait and Switch, which I'm very pleased of now, described just before he did it. So he's describing what actual refraction would be, akin to what Dr. John would describe refraction to be and how it would work, detailing the actual effects. Now, his refraction isn't what he's detailing, but that's how they bamboozle you, because he's going to start describing and arguing about what real refraction does in the real world. Now, at some stage, he's got a segue to his 7/6R, having seemingly answered all questions about refraction accurately. But at some point, he's going to then switch that with 7/6R. Now, obviously, QE's led him this way, so the only person who's aware of exactly what's going on at this point is Quantum Eraser, who's going to point out that, so you're going to be assuming the atmosphere's curving and that he says the ocean's curving. So there's going to be an assumption that Earth is curving at the beginning of this application then, the R value in this instance. Now, as you correctly point out, he's not yet said, oh, it's 7/6R, because he knows damn well that that's the point he's been held to task on by me and Sleeping Warrior. So why would he ever confess to it? That's why he chuckled when first asked. But at this point, he's now caught in the net. You're begging the question. You're just going to assume Earth spending, even though you've not stated the formula, which you know damn well. It's there glaring bright in his calculator. Anyway, anybody else got anything to add?
Yeah, that was my favorite part. When he said the atmosphere is, because the atmosphere is curved. And everybody laughed, and then he tried to fix it with, but like, yeah, the oceans. The oceans are curved, therefore the atmosphere has to be curved.
Earth's a sphere. Therefore, it's perfectly acceptable to beg the question and bend light around that sphere, because I'm assuming it's a sphere. Like, yeah, you're begging the question. That's what's being pointed out to you, Mick West. Yeah. Any more?
Only some admin.
Ed?
Okay. I got a super chat from Cleary, and he says, "You have the right to remain Faulkner." And I have
That was great, Cleary.
Cleary comes up with some good ones, boy.
And I got a message in the chat from one of your Patreons, James Mayes, and he says, "All of you ballers listening in the background, you guys are finished." That's what he said.
Yes, they are. Yeah. Thanks, James.
Any more for any more?
Yes, just one more. Please, can someone talk me through this curve? You know, the atmosphere being curved. If like gas particles are like separate and like free moving, I can't see the curve.
Gases don't take shapes. They're shapeless.
Yeah. So where's the curvature?
There isn't. You're correct. But again, I hate to say this to you, you've fallen into the same trap. So you're trying to square a circle. You're trying to say, this is how light actually behaves. But that's not what he's detailing. So he's bamboozled you because you think that you've got to justify and describe how light actually behaves. No. While he did talk about that, that's not what he's going to be applying. He's going to be applying 7/6R. So he's arbitrarily bending light around Earth's curved surface that is presupposed, regardless of what light actually does, Dr. John. So yeah, they make it seem like you need to argue about what light actually does when they're arbitrarily just going to bend it around a curved Earth they presupposed. That's the problem here.
Any more for any more?
Crack on.
Mick West, he did his best. He didn't pass the test.
Jeez, oh man.
Oh,
Keep your day
Mick
job.
West.
Well, okay, now I've got to do it. I've got to shout out Isa Mahalski. So shout out to Isa Mahalski. Go subscribe today. Also, Cleary, he released a nice little topology video, which I thought was very interesting today. So right-click on the 3 dots on Cleary and go and subscribe. He's a videographer, so check him out. Funny though he is, he's also making videos. So yeah, subscribe today to Cleary.
Hey,
Should we
also
move
to
on with the presentation?
Also to Dave Rocky Gafford, man. He's got some outstanding moon and sun videos on his channel. They're really breathtaking.
Just to stop Arwin muscling in on this shameless plug, subscribe to Arwin, ARWIJN Early Bird channel. So, let's move on.
I also want to give a good shout out to my boy FE Jedi, the guy you shouted out before, Nathan. He's in the chat right now from 24/7 Discord. Yeah, he's in the chat right now. I wanted to shout him out. My boy right there.
Just one other thing then. So shout out Iron Rail Media, have no sphere. That's the Ironworks on True Frequency Radio, 10 o'clock on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Yeah, Adam got arrested for flat Earth, guys.
He got stuffed.
I'd shout out. I would like be forced to shout out Nathan Oakley 1980 in the Flat Earth debate, but as I'm the MC, I won't.
Jeez, oh,
very
nice. All right, we ready to trudge on?
Yeah, we're ready. I think.
Okay, remember, there's another name, right? I told you to remember Andrew Thomas Young. He is responsible for the citation I showed Mick, right? That he just whistled by. Andrew Thomas Young saying at San Diego State University. Keep this in mind. We're gonna trudge on now. Check this little maneuver that Mick tried to pull. Listen closely.
Let's say it's not curved then. Let's say we don't know if it's curved or not.
Sure.
Everybody knows that water does not curve. Everybody knows that.
What I was saying, Mick.
All intelligent people know that.
What I was
you say
saying,
you know
Mick,
that, but it's not actually true.
What I was saying, Mick, in the beginning when I said terrestrial refraction, I was trying to lead you to the definition and the equation for terrestrial refraction. As we can see, terrestrial refraction. I'm not done yet, Mick. Just one second.
I know what you're going to say. So
just one second. Oh, yeah, but this is for the audience.
Okay, go ahead.
What I wanted to say was I was trying to lead you to give us, because you claimed it, I just wanted you to support it. And as we can see, that terrestrial refraction is computed by already assuming the radius, i.e. curvature of the Earth. So to use that, you must first scientifically validate the radius of the Earth, and then we'll let you use your terrestrial refraction. So
Okay.
go ahead.
That's fine. Oh, that's not
Is
a
that
problem.
fair?
So, what's your question?
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, but we're not using refraction to prove the curvature of the Earth. We use other
What are we using? Are we using measurements over land?
Okay, we've been talking about refraction all this time.
So why were we talking about refraction? So why were we talking about? Hold on, one at a time. One at a
Somebody should
time.
cut that out. Timestamp it. 2019. Mick West. Someone quickly.
Well,
That's hilarious.
okay, let's listen. He's under.
John got that.
Listen. He's under great stress. All right, you see what he did? Pseudo McWestian 2 space. We're not using refraction to prove the curvature of the Earth. Ha ha! That was second grade, Slick Mick. Your feeble reverse stuff flip-flop red herring fallacy diversion attempt isn't gonna fly here, sir. That wasn't my point, Mick. This is. You are using the curvature of the Earth to compute terrestrial refraction. Flip it. You tried to flip it on us. That is, you're assuming the curvature of the Earth so as to invoke or employ the terrestrial refraction equation. So to employ the terrestrial refraction equation, you must first validate the curvature of the Earth. Or you're begging the question. Newsflash, if not, your fairy tale equation is void. And Mick still hasn't posted the equation for terrestrial refraction. Questions, comments?
I think we should just rattle straight on to the next clip. Objections?
I'll go for it.
We're all pounding.
Oh, it's fine. I'm not worried at all. We use observations that are high up that get above like the worst effects of refraction. So you stand on something like a cliff and you look at a distant mountain. So you're not looking too close to the surface of the ocean. Where you need to use refraction is to explain things like these laser tests or these mirror flash tests that go very close to the surface of the ocean.
Of course. So the ones that are actually measuring the
So
ground of the Earth, that's where we
I just
need
want to ask a
refraction.
simple question.
No, they're not.
What model of refraction can make predictions? Post-diction is like what you just said. That's a post-diction. That's the Earth is curved. I see this, therefore, my model, I'm going to fit that observation to my model. As opposed to, I have a model, I see an image, and now I know how much refraction, and I'm going to make a prediction based upon weather conditions and what I should see and what I shouldn't see.
Yeah,
that type of prediction.
And the assumption that refraction is going to follow the.
That's a great question, and I have the
because
answer.
there are hundreds of models of refraction.
Yeah,
you are aware of that,
but
right?
Listen, I think the thing that we need to focus on is the fact that they're trying to assert the fact that the refraction is going to follow the curvature of the Earth perfectly without any fucking deviation. It's insane.
Hold on, guys.
No
We're doing it again. Hold on, Mick. Sorry, one sec. We're doing it again, guys. Someone makes a point. Someone brings up another point. Now Mick has 2 points to address. Can you first address what model you what model do you use or can you use to make refraction predictions?
Use one that incorporates the temperature gradient, and then you use ray tracing to trace the path of rays through that through the medium. And the more detail you can get in the variations of temperature, the better. But if you simply do a vertical temperature gradient and then do ray tracing through that, you can predict what things will look like. And I actually programmed a simulator that does exactly that, which I can share the link with.
So,
Let me look
can you
it up.
show us actual measurements or tests to validate that model?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so let's see them.
Well, you want me to actually? I did it with
because
Dr.
I know
Johns.
they don't exist because I've seen every experiment on refraction ever done in the last 150
The dog
years.
ate them, Indio.
Used Dr. Johns' numbers, and it came out to be like basically matching what he saw with his numbers.
Indio, he said he had scientific evidence of this.
On a curved.
Indio, he said he had scientific
Matching
evidence of
what he
this. Can he give
saw.
us? I'm sorry, Mick.
No, he didn't.
I'm still wondering how it gets sucked. Like it's sucked into other layers. I'm still wondering that. You got a vertical temperature gradient
that's
and a
what we were talking about
horizontal laser.
earlier. That's a great question,
Well,
and I love talking about that because it's something that I didn't understand myself at first, and I actually wrote to this famous refraction expert, what's his Andrew Young, He kind of explained it to me.
Ha ha! I caught you. Pseudo Westian 2 space. I wrote to this famous refraction expert, Andrew Young. You mean this Andrew Young that you whistled past the graveyard by above? That's what I posted. That's the citation I posted above. Right? But now he invokes him. Right? This. Right? You whistled past this. And special note, Mick, he still hasn't shown the terrestrial refraction equation I asked him for. Comments, questions, quick.
Yes, when Mick was, when we were talking to Mick about the observations we had done, again, we asked Mick numerous amounts of time. I had a team of like programmers waiting for all like the data, the temperature data that he said he had, the humidity data that he said he had, that he had programmed into his like curve like calculator, and strangely enough, he refused to like send it, and we never
Again, John, I noticed he casually references your work as if it course aligns with his models. He casts that as a early statement and then carries on, but he references you again. It's
which is strange because it blatantly proves him wrong, and it proves his curve calculator.
He implies. Sorry. He implies.
We're concerning ourselves unnecessarily. Curve calculator. It's begging the question to begin with. So he's going to run it through a simulation that will be bending light around a curve to match an observation of reality. What you got was what you got. But him then bending that around a sphere proves absolutely nothing. He assumes radius because his model's going to be a spherical model, and then he's going to be bending the light around that model in line with the radius at whatever rate he chooses or claims he's got from whatever. It doesn't matter. He is going to be applying terrestrial refraction. Now, what QE's just pointed out is that earlier on in the discussion with Mick West, QE's 10 steps ahead of him and says, here you go. Here's how you'll be bending light around a presupposed spherical Earth. And he whistles past it, only to later point out that he's got in touch with the very guy that's been cited and is ignored to say, I've got the justification for bending light around a model that's spherical. Well, all he's doing is bending light around a model to make it match with the observation that Dr. John's done, and then talked a bit about what refraction really does, but that's not what he's applying. That's the point. Move on. I know that was supposed to be quick.
That's okay. That's okay. We got one semi-medium section to go. So you guys ready?
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to go through the steps of the scientific method. Mick's going to get brave here.
But yeah, it seems like it shouldn't, if something's going kind of between the layers, as you say, it shouldn't actually get bent down. But it does because...
it does because the math says it does, or because it's observed?
No, you can actually demonstrate it. You can demonstrate it.
It sounds like we're assuming
curvature. I just want to see these demonstrations, dude, of these models, right?
Well,
these
the problem
models
is
that actually make predictions that are accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let me get my refraction simulator link up so you can see it.
Wait a second.
I don't want a simulation.
Wait, you wouldn't even give people data on your calculator, but yet you're going to expect us to believe that crap? Really?
I'm saying
sending
there's
you
models,
a link.
right? And then there's reality, and we validate models by experiment, right? So where are the experiments validating the models?
Yeah, we want the hypothesis.
So I know who A.T. Young is. I've read everything he's published, right? So I know who these people are.
Where? At San Diego State University.
So I know if you use, ray tracing, you're going to get a bend just from the nature of the equation, right? But that's just the equation. But that's fine. That's a model. So where's the actual experimental validations of these models?
Dr. John's experiment
Controlled
validated it.
experiment.
Dr.
Oh my
John,
God.
hold
I
on a
don't think
second.
so.
Hold on
First
a
of all,
second.
I
We
don't
already
think so.
talked about Dr. John. Dr. John didn't conduct an experiment. He already said as much. You don't know what an experiment is. That's the problem. Hey, Indio, he said scientific evidence. Can you please have him post the natural phenomenon? Go through the steps of the scientific method, please, Indio.
The natural phenomenon that he observed?
Yeah,
There isn't one.
Yeah, there isn't one. What's your dependent variable?
Let's see, the temperature
Of the
gradient.
Earth.
The temperature. So the temperature grading is your. Hold on a second. Hold on. So I'm going to write this down, Mick, because I want to make sure that I got this correct.
Temperature.
It's just what changes. Are you doing the changing or is something else changing based off of your changes? That's it.
Hold on a second. He said
Better.
Hold on a second. Hold on, people. Relax.
No, well, that's the dependent variable. Actually, will be the image itself.
So we're going from the temperature to the image now.
Get them mixed up. But it doesn't matter. Yeah, the terminology doesn't matter.
Wait, 1 second. So if I manipulate the image, what will I get?
No. If the temperature gradient changes and the image changes as predicted by the model, then that validates the model.
Mick, you have to have a hypothesis because a hypothesis is a scientific prediction. So we're only at the first step. We're only at the first step, Mick. 1 second. Now, the dependent variable, your observed phenomena, is now the image?
Yes, the image.
Okay, what's the independent variable?
I don't know. What would you give me an example of an independent variable?
He doesn't even know.
The temperature, the moisture.
Oh my God, Mick! Thank you.
Okay, so
Mick,
just want to make sure we've got the right terminology here.
Mick, it's
the temperature gradient.
Mick, it's your experiment. You're asking me for the independent variable for your experiment, son.
Yeah.
Can
So
somebody clip
the
that?
temperature gradient varies. It has an effect, which is changing the image. So the hypothesis is that there's a model. There's the round and the
every time you stop reifying shit.
There are over 5 dozen people in here.
We're already on a ball when this is happening, right?
This is a clown show, Mick.
The hypothesis. Wait, did you really just say the hypothesis is it's a model?
Have you seen my refraction simulator?
Let him describe it. Let him describe it.
Hold on, everybody. Please let him finish. Could you please let him?
Yeah. Go ahead, Mick. Go ahead.
Mick, I'm gonna have you over for a beer.
Sure. So the model. You want me to describe the model that I use?
No. Let's just summarize. 1 second. Yeah. You said the dependent variable was the image. The independent variable was what?
The temperature gradient.
Temperature gradient? Okay, give us your hypothesis.
That if you ray trace light through air that is curved, with the temperature gradient being like the same over every point on the curved surface, then you will get images that match reality.
So I thought you said the temperature gradient was your independent variable. In your hypothesis, I didn't see any temperature gradient being manipulated.
You would take 2 different temperature gradients.
No.
Over a curved
Mick,
surface.
You can't manipulate temperature gradients because
Mick,
they're just
then
what
it's
they
not
are.
a viable independent variable because your independent variable is number 1, your cause. Number 2, you have to vary and manipulate it.
You vary and manipulate it by waiting to a later time of the day.
Waiting.
Oh
my! That's not very manipulating anything. That's waiting.
So is it proof
yes,
of
but
time?
it changes. It changes.
Are we going to prove time? If your hypothesis is time, is that what we're trying to prove?
Let's say your hypothesis is that you can see better.
You can manipulate the
Does
distance.
this have anything to do with the flat Earth?
Mick,
God, he's Doctor Who.
Flat Earth.
All right, guys.
We have to.
Mick, thank you very much, sir, for showing what a complete imbecile you actually are. All right, question. Go through the steps of the scientific method. What's your dependent variable, Mick? The Pseudo Westian 2 space, the temperature gradient. Then he says the dependent variable actually will be the image itself. So, question. So, going through, we're going from the temperature gradient to the image now? Pseudo Westian 2 space. I got them mixed up. It doesn't matter. I said, come again? How could you mix them up? I only asked for the dependent variable. That's only one category. You can't mix up a singular. There are no them. Who's losing it?
Good baller.
Wait.
John is dying over there.
Yeah. Hang on for a second. If you can.
Let him recover.
Oh God, please stop. Stop. I'm crying.
We're not done yet, but go ahead, let it out, share your pain.
Share your pain, show your joy.
John got me dying too now.
I didn't think it was that funny.
Yeah, it kind of is. I kind of agree with John.
What the hell was that?
Somebody horse tranquilize him.
Oh God.
All right.
Perfect reaction.
Okay, we're still going. So Mick's hypothesis number 1, if the temperature gradient changes and the image changes as predicted by the model, then that validates the model. So number 1, those are 2 reification fallacy, model and model, right? Fallacies don't predict. The viable hypotheses do, which you don't have here. And number 3, non sequitur fallacy conclusion, because your premises are based on a logical fallacy, a couple of them, and an invalid hypothesis. So the next question, what's the independent variable, Mick? Pseudo Westian 2 space. I don't know. What would you give me an example of an independent variable? That's what he said. So obviously Mick's not a golfer. Mick West hypothesis.
Answer.
Number 2.
Hold on just 1 second, QE. If you're not, just pop yourselves on mute, guys, because we're getting interference. We can't hear what QE's saying. I appreciate it's funny. Just laugh with yourselves on mute.
That was my favourite line there, QE. The independent variable. Oh, I don't know. Give me an example of one. I was going to say the amount of cheese.
Answer.
No, I think the better one was the hypothesis is it's a model.
It's a model.
What?
Get it all out.
Oh my God. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
I'll get mine in then. At the rate that light is bending around the curved surface, he just likes to lay out the fact he's begging the question, like lay it bare. Just tell him, I'm bending that light around a curved surface, whether you like it or not. I'm gonna be begging the question. Sorry, had to get it in.
He's enjoying.
Are we all done?
No, we're not done yet. I'm still finishing up.
Ahead.
Mick's hypothesis, he had a number 2 hypothesis in there if you missed it. His number 2 hypothesis, if you ray trace light through air that is curved, with the temperature gradient being like the same over every point on a curved surface, then you will get images that match reality. Question, you said your independent variable was the temperature gradient. I didn't see any temperature gradient being manipulated in your hypothesis, Mick. He says, then, you can't manipulate temperature gradients. I tell you what, Mick, there's a fever in the funkhouse now. As if there wasn't before. Number 1, your hypothesis is abject bunk because you have no viable independent variable. Number 2, 3 begging the question fallacies. Number 1, curved air. Number 2, curved surface. Number 3, temperature gradient being the same over every point of begging the question fallacy. Number 2. Number 3, non sequitur fallacy. Number 1, curved air. And 4, non sequitur fallacy. Number 2, your conclusion doesn't follow from its premises and your hypothesis is invalid. Now, let's summarize. This is very important because this was pretty long and you probably lost all the points. That's okay. I consolidated them for you. Number 1, Mick stands in direct contradiction with Fermat's principle. Number 2, Mick stands in direct contradiction with the photoelectric effect, Compton scattering, Isaac Newton, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, Professor Shankar, chair of physics at Yale, Professor Susskind, professor of physics at Stanford, and Richard Feynman. Number 3, Mick stands in direct contradiction with ground squirrel level reasoning and would fail 5th grade general science. Number 4, Mick stands in direct contradiction again with Professor Shankar, chair of physics at Yale, University of Tennessee, Einstein, and professor of physics Henry Stapp. He's also a half-wit that doesn't understand the difference between physical and the conceptual. Number 5, Mick suffers from hallucinations. Number 6, Mick also suffers from severe doublespeak weaselitis. Light is a wave, light acts like a wave, like kind of acts like if it is a wave, and it appears to act like a wave. Number 7, Mick states he is a science communicator, then he states he isn't a science communicator, then he states he is a science communicator. Number 8, Mick's science acumen is hovering around 1st grade, primary school. A, didn't know the 3 constituent parts of a scientific experiment. B, doesn't need things to conduct an experiment. C, asked me what an independent variable was and what his independent variable was in his train wreck hypothesis. Essentially, Mick would fail 5th grade general science. On a more serious, clinically serious note, Mick clearly needs to be institutionalized immediately for the safety of his person and others. My final conclusion is now, wait, one.
Cute baller.
He didn't perform an experiment. We already established that.
Just try to fucking distract us. Refraction is bullshit. Straight up.
Yeah, and he has no experiments. He doesn't even know what an experiment is.
I'd love to see this
hold on
fucking
a second. I
simulator.
just want to finish up. Mick, friend, sir. Hello?
Oh, I'm here.
Yep. You have been erased. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. The end. Questions, comments?
Hopefully we'll get some rounds up from the Ballbusters crew, and then maybe for the last 10 minutes go to some of the people in the Discord server that are not Ballbusters. So
I just
maybe
want to
start with
say,
you, Chocolate.
I just want to say, rest in peace, Mick West. Tried his best.
I just want to know what rationale ballers have to accept anything that he says. When you if you accumulate everything that he says into like a table of things that he said that were incorrect.
He is speaking, Nathan.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah.
I'll let Nathan know when you're done. Go ahead, Anthony.
If you add up all the things that Mick said that were wrong or incorrect, there is more stuff that's wrong and incorrect than what was right. Yet the ballers it's almost as if they just say, spoon feed me my convenient lie because I want to hear you lie to me because it makes me feel better, regardless of how true the actual statements that he says actually are. And it's like, how can you... There's got to be a mental faculty issue there for everybody that just accepts the spoon feeding. Because if he's spoon feeding you the convenient lie and you're satisfied by that, there's got to be a name for that, and I don't know what the name is, but it probably starts with Delu and then ends with Lusinol, because I can't understand how anybody would accept any of that he says. It's nonsense.
Are you done, Anthony? Hold on a second.
Yeah,
Are you
I'm
done,
done.
Anthony?
Yeah, I'm done.
Nathan, Anthony is done.
Cool. Anybody else on the Ballbusters team? And then hopefully I won't have any technical issues when I go down the list, but maybe Adam?
Yeah, well,
yep.
I've not got a great deal to add. I think it's been a great presentation. The only thing that, like I say, stood out for me was his need to downgrade himself. So the ballers may have held him in regard as some sort of speaker for science, but clearly he isn't. He's just a scientific communicator. And
to be honest, if we were to hijack that term,
in terms of in terms of reality, what that is, and the only thing I can assume is in reality, he is just a propagandist. He's not offering any real science. He's just offering just a viewpoint and a viewpoint of that.
Hold off, Tony. We'll come back to you again.
But the bugger's calling it science, and that's the most frustrating part. He's punting pseudoscience and calling it science communication. Dr. John?
Yeah, in my last two videos on Mick West, at the end of each video, I kind of hinted that he might be showing, you know, like characteristics of like a sociopath. Now, I think what we've heard like today, and if you look up, the characteristics of a sociopath, that they do match quite well.
Everyone in the Hangout, if you're not speaking, you should be on mute.
Sleeping Warrior can go next, and then when Sleeping Warrior's concluded his next statement, Arwin, if you follow, then I'll know obviously that it's finished. So if Sleeping Warrior goes, then Arwin, that'd be great.
Go ahead, Tony.
If we were to steal that phrase, science communicators, that would be more applicable for our side because we're trying to communicate that science. And if we make mistakes along the way, I'm pretty sure that the ballers will point it out. But it works both ways. If he makes mistakes along the way, he's got to correct them. So what we should do is steal that phrase, science communicators, and then we'll just call it everybody, so it means actually nothing in the end, because he's reinventing a phrase, or he's inventing a phrase there, so that he can distance himself from being a scientist, but he's still practicing practically day-to-day science, but not science, but he's telling people it's science. So it's a weasel phrase that he's invented to distinguish, but really kind of pass himself off as in the same sentence. So we should steal it off him, and then we should just call ourselves science communicators ourselves, so that it actually means nothing.
Well, you don't need to dress it up. If you're talking about science, you're talking about science. I reconnected, by the way. I can hear you. Go ahead, Arwin.
Right. So what I'm still wondering about with Mick West and this whole ordeal and everything I've experienced with him so far, seeing of his what he does, I really wonder, is he just a guy like Simon Dan, for example? Like total nitwit that is just an opportunist and that somehow got granted this media crown that gave him an apparent superiority? Or is he a top-down guy, controller type that is acting really stupid? It's hard to tell, really, at this point, for me.
Bit of both, Arwin. He sometimes plays dumb when he does know the answers to things, so that he can later impose a fairly specific view on it. So it depends. He's not stupid. I'll give you that. Mick is not stupid.
So it's a bit of a mystery to me still, but yeah, his overall performance is like all ballers in general, just idiotic and devious and
The baller mentality is
delusional.
top-down, and it's come from him, Arwin. That's why they behave like him. It's not the other way around. He's not acting like ballers. Ballers are acting like Mick West.
Oh, maybe. How do you test this?
We're not. See, can you hear us?
We got you. Nathan, go on. Radio check, Nathan.
You don't hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. Go ahead.
Did we hear from 10th Man?
Not yet. 10th?
No, yeah, I just got my name called. Yeah, I just want to say I was just waiting for Dr. John D to break into turn out the lights. That was hilarious. It's self-explanatory. The guy embarrassed himself. He didn't even know what the IV was. He said, hey, can you help me out? It's your experiment. My goodness.
I've got a question for Chocolate.
Yeah, but even before that, he said you didn't need things to conduct an experiment. So apparently, he feels like you can have an experiment without an IV. So it's cool. It's all good, right? Go ahead, Riley.
Chocolate, do you think that Mick West is working at the really is level, or do you think he's working at the not really is level?
Negative. Mr. Mick West knows damn well that he works with assumptions. Right?
Yeah, he's working
based
at
on
the not
his
really
standard
level.
model, not on the really is level. Mick, we like the really is level here. So when you come in here, you say, I'm a science communicator, and explain how you do that, and then say, well, I don't call myself a science communicator. And then later on say, I am a science communicator. Got to work on that, brother. I don't know what you're doing over there, but you need help.
Chopper, mate. We can.
Before we go,
We
I'm sorry.
we must think of gravity as a force.
We must. Betty, have you got anything for us?
Well, again, we have someone that doesn't know the scientific method, and I think that if QE would have started with that, he would have been finished from the beginning. I think so. It's really amazing to see how this ended. And people in chat are really loving this, and they say all kinds of stuff like, let me see what I had here. I love Professor QE, LOL. Kill them, QE. And Erasure Terminator Dune. An excellent summary, QE. And you got a sticker that says, "You're amazing" from Silver Umbrella. And Flat Earth says, QE, a real science communicator.
We'll start making our way. Hopefully, we'll get a few of these in. So, hey, Travis, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me? Over.
Can. Did you have anything you wanted to add or ask?
Yeah, I actually had quite a lot. So if you want to come back to me at the end, that's fine. Otherwise, it's going to take a few minutes.
We're all good. Go ahead. Take your time.
All right. Well, I was trying to navigate this show through my phone, so Discord would go quiet, so I'd have to jump over to YouTube to catch it. So there's parts and pieces that I missed. However, I just wanted to also begin with Chocolate. Basically led Mick West to realize the error in his statement regarding the three constituent parts of an experiment being unnecessary. And then Mick also doubled down on not needing them, right? You guys have talked about this a few times. It's abject buffoonery on the part of Mick West. So Mick also says he wants to dumb down his dialogue. To what exactly? So if you dumb down science, what are you actually describing? Right? And so, Mick being a science communicator, I have a little riddle tongue twister for you. How much science can a science communicator communicate when a science communicator can't communicate science? Say it 5 times fast, get back to me.
That was excellent.
But never mind. According to Mick West himself, he isn't a science communicator. Embarrassing.
Well, he is, and then he isn't, and then he is, and then he isn't again.
Thank you for that, Travis. That was epic. We've also got, is it Tay? I don't know how you say your name. How you doing? Can you hear us?
Hey, Babs, you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah. R.I.P. McWest.
Any more?
Yeah, he got toe tagged and body bagged. Zip him up. R.I.P.
Fair enough. Who else we've got in here? We've got Silent. How you doing? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Anything to add? Any comments, questions? Feel free.
Gas pressure without a container. It's one thing that's always bugged me. So they tell us we're not in a perfect vacuum, so there's a gradient. Is it assumed that the gradient is infinite? Just something that boggles my mind.
In an imaginary world like Narnia, in this instance, when you're referring to Tor values, you can put those Tor values wherever you like, because you're talking about and describing an imaginary world. So if you choose, say in the late 90s, to push the Tor values out to the moon, you could do that in your imaginary world if you wanted to. It's amazing. The sky's the limit with your imagination when you're describing a heliocentric world that isn't real. So in terms of what you do with the Tor values in the heliocentric world, you can do what you like. It's not real. That answers your question. Any more for any more?
Yeah, I'd
But
like to
you
give a
can-
shout out. Hold on one second. If Effie Jedi or Indio 007 or Jose Mesa, I failed to send you guys the link for the Discord, for Ballbusters Discord, but you can still come over, guys. Just come over and you can join. No issues. I'd like to have you and get your final take on this. Thanks.
Jedi is in here right now.
Oh, we'll get to him.
I don't know.
Rams Corp, the guys who have jumped over, if you want to come off deafen in the hangout, just so I know that you do actually want to talk. But Rams Corp, if you want to come off mute and share your pain or ask any questions, go ahead.
No, I don't think I really have anything to add. I think everything's already been said.
Boris, it's a pleasure having you all the same. And I think that's Adam, isn't it? FUGXD. Share your pain. Fair enough. Unless I just couldn't hear him in the server. FE Jedi, very good to have you. I loved your very sort of droning comments as you pointed out his ineptitude. It was brilliant.
Cheers, Nathan. Yeah, thanks very much. The only thing that I wanted to say is that evening on the 24/7 Flat Earth Discord server goes up there, or goes down in history as one of the funniest nights ever. It's brilliant that Quantum Arrays was literally taking Mick West apart again, because I think it's something that everybody needs to see, because Mick West is supposed to be something, right? He's not. He's just a fallacious idiot, as was pointed out, and he's been disseminated again tonight. So it's been a pleasure to listen to it again. So thanks for doing it again, QE. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for your participation in it, because your bit was especially hilarious. Brilliant stuff indeed. So we've also got Brenda. Hello, Brenda.
Oh, no.
I have questions for John, if we're ready for that.
No, I'm eating.
Hooray!
No, I'm eating. Ask somebody else.
I just have a question. He claims that the light is a particle, right?
Oh, God.
What's your question?
How do you explain the double-slit experiment? That shows that light is a wave.
Double-spliff experiment?
How do you explain it?
The assertion is incorrect. The double slit experiment does not show light as a wave. I mean, we've gone through it enough on this show, all 2 hours and 50 minutes, 55 minutes of it, and given enough detail in regards to why light is not a wave. So, rehashing the entire presentation when debunking Mick West in that regard seems pointless for you now, Brenda. To rehash precisely what's already been said. However, the wave function that is observed in the double slit experiment would be the diffraction pattern. Graphic plate. That diffraction pattern is described mathematically as a wave function. Now, when asked what a function is, Mick West correctly identified that it's a mathematical construct, description of something. Not an actual thing. It's not an actual wave. It's not even called a wave. It's a wave function, mathematical description. So light is not a wave, and the double slit experiment definitely does not prove light is a wave when the effect of diffraction is being simply described mathematically as a wave function, also known as probability distribution, not a wave. But thank you for your input. Become Virus, last but by no means least. Good to have you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Question?
I have a question. Who is Mick West? Because I don't know who that is. I'm just curious.
Mick West is the host of a site called Metabunk, most predominantly used for debunking conspiracy theorists. Our particular interest in that site would be the curve calculator. And as detailed on this show, part of that curve calculator, fondly referred to by us as the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking curve calculator, assumes not only a radius value of an Earth that you're trying to presume is spherical from the offset. No, that would be the begging the question part of the title we fondly attribute to that calculator, begging the question, because it has an R value, but also terrestrial refraction, which is used and labelled as standard refraction in Mick West's version of the begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator. So he is reifying the R value in two instances, one with his calculator aptly named curve calculator because it's always giving you a curved outcome on his metabunk site, but also the refractive value at the rate of 7/6R in standard format. Terrestrial refraction as opposed to the nonsense he babbles about what light does when in air, also known as refraction. Nothing to do with his arbitrary values he applies. So he's quite crucial in this argument in the respect that he makes lots of people reify a model known as a heliocentric spherical Earth by way of this calculation, which is very prominently utilized by this gentleman, Mick West. Hope that answers your question, Virus. Been a great show.
Can I just add, 7/6R is calculation for what he says light does, but light doesn't actually do that. If you apply Fermat's principle, it states that light deviates from straight in all directions, including up, not just down. So 7/6 in itself is just completely wrong. I don't know why he thinks that. He's citing all the old documents where they've calculated for it, but light doesn't do that. Light varies from point to point, and it deviates from straight. It does not follow a curved path.
Well said. Any other Ballbusters got anything to add? Closing remarks, and then hopefully we'll get a round out from QE, and I'll thank all of the Ballbusters guests.
Yes, I do.
Darwin?
Yeah, I'm formulating a new big concept that may lead to something, and that is that light seems to be subjected to some kind of wave effect that doesn't make light a wave, of course, but it seems to be subjected to it when passing through in one form or another through slits. And that's interesting to me. So.
No, it doesn't. Sorry, Arwin. It doesn't.
Why?
Fire a single
you know?
quanta at a photographic plate, it exhibits absolutely zero wave properties, and you can't even derive a wave function from it. You'd need multiple instances of an impact light on that photographic plate for you to derive a wave function. So if I fire a single particle of light, I'm not going to derive a wave function from it in any way, shape, or form. Sorry.
So is there a wave function or is there not?
No. If I fire a single, I've just said this. Am I going nuts? If you fire a single particle, then no, you don't have enough information to derive a probability distribution. A probability distribution being, what's the likelihood of the next impact site? Well, if you fire a single particle, it'll impact and give you a likelihood of where it's hit. But where's the next one going to hit in your interference pattern? Well, you don't know till you fire the next one. And if you fire 100, you'll eventually build up something that you can mathematically describe as a wave function because it's a probability distribution. Where's it going to hit next?
Right, exactly.
So when Quantum Eraser earlier described you firing them one at a time to give you your wave function, your bands of light, rather than 2 bars, well, each time a bit of light hits, that's likely to be in the middle or less likely to be on the outside. Well, that likelihood is what's being described in that wave function. That's what it is. Right. But there's no wave anywhere in that light in what it did at all.
Exactly, and it's not within the parts that it falls outside of that wave function. So there's no reason to that unless you presume conceptually that light, despite being presumed to be a particle, and that's fine. I'll go with that for the time being, that it's being subjected to some kind of wave effect that causes it to distribute like that. And it probably has to do, it probably has to do with the slits passing.
The same claim,
by...
Owen. That's the same claim you just made, and I went through it consistently and pummeled it. No, light does not in any way, shape, or form exhibit wave behavior at all. But when it hits this photographic plate, it has a likelihood of where it will hit. And that likelihood, probability, if you will, that distribution of probability, what's a mathematical term for that distribution of the probability where it'll hit next? Oh yeah, wave function. Yeah, that's just a mathematical term. Absolutely zero to do with wave and how the light behaves, because it isn't a wave. God. Any other Ballbusters got any closing remarks? And then I'll thank you all and thank the audience and all that. Maybe QE, do you want to go first with closing remarks? We'll get you to go at the end, obviously.
Yeah, I'll go at the end. Go ahead. You go through the list.
Yeah, just one. Does Mick West do like live tours? I've never laughed so much in my life.
That was I forgot to. I'm glad you've said that. So the bout of hysteria was from Dr. John D. Just so we're all aware that the man who actually is studied and very well educated in the areas of light and what it does was in fits of laughter when it came to QE hammering Mick West by asking him to formulate a hypothesis for his total bullshit assertions when it comes to his model. So thank you for that bout of hysteria, Dr. John D. Perfect, absolutely perfect reaction. Any other?
Well, it was pretty funny.
It was funny.
I wanted to
It was
add
funny.
something.
Yeah, I haven't laughed so loud for a long time. I'd definitely pay to see Mick West.
You're welcome.
Any other Ballbusters? Any other closing remarks?
Chocolate.
Yeah, I wanted to add, like,
just a quickie.
when
Cheers, John.
Hold
for your
on a second,
efforts
Adam.
and,
It's Chocolate wanted to add something, then we'll get to you next.
Okay.
Right. With the whole thing with him being a science communicator, running around and teaching people about science, right? The common layperson, right? In a lot of ways, it doesn't surprise me that he's not going around teaching everybody about, things like the constituent parts of an experiment. And he feels like it's arbitrary and you don't need it. Like you don't need things to conduct an experiment, because the people don't really need to know about scientific method so much, because there is no scientific experiment validating his argument, which is the globe. So it kind of benefits him and the people that he talks to, right, to not really know too much about an IV or a DV, or that you need these things to conduct an experiment, because they don't have experiments to prove this globe, right? Obviously, it's not a scientific question, but again, before we used to hear all the time, the whole body of science proves the globe. And all of a sudden now science doesn't prove things. Well, this is why. Because people like Mick West don't need to run around and teach people about these things, because there are no experiments. And the people that are asking, hey, where's all the science for the globe? We're the ones getting called crazy, right? But we're the ones that know the scientific method. So what does that say? That's it. Oh, and Travis wanted to add something. I don't know if it's cool, but
Let Adam go, and then we'll get to, once we're done with the Ballbusters, then Travis can say something. Yep.
Cool.
Go ahead, Adam.
Can you hear me?
We got you, Adam. Go ahead.
I had to drop and come back. I couldn't have chocolate there. I just want to say thanks, John. Really good. First assembly of the Ballbusters. It was a good chat around a lot of hard work you've done, mate. So thanks for your efforts. And I want to confirm. So it's not a wave, yeah?
I can see 10th man flashing away, but if we can have Travis first, and then we'll end with 10th man, and then I'll thank everyone. Go ahead, Travis.
All right. Yeah. Great. Well, I was going to say something too to Arwen's comment earlier relating Mick West to Brenda. Arwen, not the person I love your show and stuff, but Mick West is a somebody. And no offense to Brenda, but Brenda is a nobody. And these two people have two things in common. They both believe in a globe Earth model as reality. And aside from that, they're also both human, right? Aside from that, they're not the same. So, Dr. John D., it's awesome to have you here too. As someone who actually knows about light, I'm learning new things. It's fantastic. So light refracts differently depending on the medium, and also differently over all types of ground covering, even vegetation. So that's amazing. So that's refraction differing. Yet we hear about standard refraction, commonly referred to as terrestrial refraction, which are two different things. So you guys just hammered that all to hell. And then also the last part I had was QE said, I quote, "You have to prove the atmosphere is curved." And as a response, Mick laughs hysterically. And then Mick retorts, and I quote, "We know the surface of the water is curved." And everyone else laughs at Mick. So yeah, Mick ends with, "We aren't using refraction to prove the curvature of the Earth, but yet Mick West is renowned for his Earth curvature calculator. I've talked to people and they refer me to Mick West Earth curve calculator. It's absurd." So I didn't expect to hear so much truth come out of Mick West's mouth, but this is absolutely an embarrassment. And I want to finish up with saying, if you could just give me a little bit of clarity. This one went over my head, QE. Obviously, he's not a golfer. Thank you.
That was from the Big Lebowski, man. When he said, dude picked up the bowling ball and he said, "What's this?" And the dude said, "Obviously, you're not a golfer."
Ted, do you want to go last?
All right. Well, it seems like the flat earthers are the true scientists at the end of the day. Whether it's Dr. Danny Faulkner or Mick West, they are denying science with every word that they say. When we're on the offensive and ask for the hypothesis and for the actual experiment details, they fall flat because they've never done them. And something for Adam. Adam, your comment about the wave, that was really swell.
Oh my God. That's a shocker. Yeah.
Betty?
Yeah.
How about
He
Betty?
might have a bit of water on the brain.
How about Betty? Does Betty have any final thoughts and any admin?
Final thoughts. Well, I think everything has been said already. Yeah, I do have some admin. I have an unpronounceable name almost. Unato Femu or something like that. He says, "Brenda, if you are a human, type donuts." Don't know what that, if it is a question or whatever.
Type donuts?
Yeah. Human type donuts.
No, if you're a human, type donuts.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, but there is no there's no commas, no points, no nothing. So
that's okay. We know what he meant.
okay, and then we have Awakened Narrative. He says, "Thanks for tearing down the BS Globely QE."
You're very welcome.
The final chats that I got.
You're very welcome. Go ahead. Go ahead, Nathan.
Wrapping out remarks, QE, and then I'll thank all of the Ballbusters. And
Can I ask one thing? Is there some reason why Arvin was muted in chat?
No.
He was muted in what? The live stream chat?
Yeah, here? Ballbusters chat?
In the Ballbusters chat? No.
Okay, so it must have been a mistake then, huh?
Yeah, it's probably some type of administrative thing. Yeah, we'll take care of it after the show.
Okay.
It's happening to me. I've had to leave and rejoin about 3 or 4 times throughout the show, so it's just a Discord issue. It's been a right pain, to be honest, but there we go.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all right. You've obviously got some rounding up remarks, QE, and then I'll thank all the Ballbusters. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know if there's any more that I can really say that hasn't been said by all the Ballbusters, everyone that's joined the Hangout, and most importantly, the entire presentation. When I was editing this, it took a long time, obviously, but I'd have to say that towards the end, I started to be embarrassed and feel sorry for Mick. So, I don't know. I mean, there's only so much we can do. This is the last time I'm going to do anything or say anything. Mick West, you said it all for us. And I just don't understand how you can come on a Flat Earth Hangout and not be prepared for just simple. These are very simple, basic 2015 questions and answers. I don't understand how you can't be prepared. Number one, you've contradicted yourself so many times. It was hard for me. It took me hours and hours to locate or to annotate all the contradictions. I don't understand that. And for you to be the upper tier of the globe-tard spinning space monkey religion, I don't know what to say. There's the hordes of globe-tard, the body of hordes of globe-tard constituents. What do they have to? What are they left with here? I don't know. I mean, if you're, like I said, if you're supposed to be the upper tier, what are they left with? What are they going to say? What do they have to say to this? I don't know. Let me just finish out by saying I feel sorry for you and I'm embarrassed for you. Thanks.
On that note of clinical level Dunning-Kruger, I'm going to say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in live on this record numbers as well on this live show on the Quantum Eraser YouTube live stream. And of course, a massive thank you to Betty Van Velsen, Paula, Bible Literalist, Dr. John D, Adam Meakin, Arwin, 10th Man, Chocolate Saying, Sleeping Warrior, and of course, Quantum Eraser himself. I've been your Master of Ceremonies, Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all on the next Ballbusters.